Yeah, but otherwise the drive-through is crazy, yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't.
Yeah.
Everybody.
You're like,
No,
Whatever.
no, I think the 750 should go.
Good evening. Time being 7 o'clock, I call the June 7th, 2023 meeting of the Franklin Town Council to order. Please pause for a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcements from the chair. All citizens are welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. Meetings are also live streamed by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 11 and Verizon Channel 29. In an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens will be able to continue to participate remotely via phone, or you may click the Zoom link that is on the posted agenda and on the town's website. The phone number is 929-205-6099, and the Zoom ID is 852-6247-5989, and then you must hit the pound sign. Once again, the Zoom ID is 852-6247-5989, pound. If residents are just interested in watching the meeting, it will also be live streamed by Franklin TV. Okay, next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. Citizens are welcome to express their views for up to 3 minutes on a matter that is not on the agenda. The council will not engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during citizens' comments. The town council will give remarks appropriate consideration and may ask the town administrator to review the matter. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Please come forward. Name and address, please.
my God, we haven't seen him for a while.
My name's Rick Saccone. I live at Chestnut Street. I just have one thing to ask the council to look into. Many years ago, the previous council, led by Judy Pfeffer, Councilor Kelly, we insisted that we save a beautiful generator, a low hour, probably $300,000 generator from the old high school, which is now, as we know, long since gone. We saved that generator for many years. Many times I brought it up to this board. I was told we were going to use it maybe here, we were going to use it at one of the schools, we were going to use this generator. It had an extremely, look into what generators cost and how long they last. Well, that generator is no longer where it was at the town hall, town DPW. And I wonder where it is. And if it doesn't look like we ever used it, but yet I wonder where that is, because that was an expensive piece of equipment, and I don't think we used it as we said we did, or we were going to. I could be wrong. I would like the council, within time, to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, is there anyone out in Zoom land that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda?
I would.
Please just name and address.
My name's Marcy DiChiara. I live on Charles River Drive.
Okay, go ahead, Marcy.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm a mom of 2 public school kids, Franklin resident. And first off, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your service. I know you guys face enormous challenges, and it definitely doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you very much. I just want to briefly address the budget crisis that we're facing in our public schools. And to start, I
Excuse
just
me,
wanna
Marcy,
know-
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
this is an agenda item tonight. So therefore, it can't be spoken during citizens' comments. Citizens' comments are for items not on the agenda. And we do have a budget situation as one of our legislations for actions. You're more than willing, or you're more than able to speak during those, during that legislation for action.
Okay.
It'll be a little further in on the agenda. I would say probably a little more than halfway through. Sorry about
Okay.
that, but
What,
just because of
specifically, what is being discussed?
we're voting on giving additional funds to the schools,
Okay,
which is what you
All
were,
right, I can
what
hold
you
off,
were about
yeah.
to address. Okay.
sort of, but yeah, I can hold off.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in Zoom land that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Okay, came in a few minutes late. There's no one else in Zoom land? Ma'am, if you'd like to speak, please. Name and address, please.
Mary O'Neill, Beaver Street.
Wait till you get to the microphone. Thank you.
Hi, Mary O'Neill, Beaver Street. I had this sign made up for my lawn, and Jim and Cindy at Allegra Printing loved it. So needless to say, they printed me up 100. So some of them have gone out in the last 2 days, 27. And I'm hoping that everyone in town will take one. Well, not everyone, obviously.
First time, how about the first 100?
That would be good. Yeah. So they're kind of fun. People want them. And I think it makes people think. And I think there's a warmth to it. And, you know, we're lacking in manners. You know, you drive in front of somebody, you cut somebody off, you don't even say thank you if they let you go. I would love to see it throughout the town. So I just thought I'd share it with you tonight. I know I saw you and I gave him cards. I have little cards with my phone numbers. Unfortunately, Jim made me up 700. So I don't need all those, obviously. All right, so I just wanted to share this with you folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other hands raised and nobody out in Zoom land, we will move on. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from April 12th,
So moved.
2023. Second. Motion and second. Discussion, additions, deletions.
No.
Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from April 26th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from May 3rd, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is proclamations and recognitions, and we do have one this evening, our annual visit by Electric Youth, and if she'd like to come forward, I'll do the proclamation first.
First, okay.
It's a small room, girls. I'm sorry.
Okay, Town of Franklin, a proclamation honoring Electric Youth on the occasion of their 2023 European tour. Whereas Franklin is a home to the Franklin School for the Performing Arts, an extremely talented musical theater ensemble known as Electric Youth, and whereas this exceptional group of young performers will be embarking on their 2023 European tour in June and July, where they will perform with the renowned Boston Show Band throughout Austria and Italy, with a special performance at the invitation of the Duke of, and I wish I had an Italian read this.
Leave it to Rayleigh.
So, at the Duke of that. Whereas during their time overseas, Electric Youth will assume the role of ambassadors of America's youth and will proudly represent the Franklin School for the Performing Arts and the town of Franklin as they travel using the power of the arts to connect with communities abroad. Now, therefore, be it known that the Electric Youth Musical Theater Ensemble is recognized with pride and best wishes by the Town Council of the Town of Franklin as they set out on their 2023 European tour as ambassadors of America's youth and representatives of Franklin, signed Thomas D. Mercer, Chairman, Franklin Town Council. I think I knew you.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this annual invitation to come before the Town Council and the citizens of Franklin. 2 weeks from tonight, we will be flying at this moment across to Europe. We'll be beginning our tour in Vienna. And as the proclamation stated, we will be doing 15 shows, actually, throughout Austria and Italy, and some very special opportunities for these young people to make an impression and to make a difference as they connect with young people in little towns across Austria and Italy, and they're going to have a wonderful time. They've worked very hard for this opportunity. These students are in class 6 or 7 days a week, classes and rehearsals, and preparing for this tour. They have not given up all of the other things they do, including go to school, which is a relatively important thing. But we spend a lot of time with them at FSPA, and we're very happy to be here from the Franklin School for the Performing Arts, where we would love some of those Kindness Matters posters, and we can take quite a few and put them in some prominent places and remind our young friends of that message. One of the things that we're very proud of at the Black Box in Franklin, where the Franklin Performing Arts Company lives, is that we've developed a network of Broadway professionals who come to Franklin to perform. Our Star of Violet this week, the show goes up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Black Box. Emily Cook is also currently in a Broadway show and managed to negotiate her time away from that show to come to Franklin to perform. The one caveat was we had to let her get back to New York on Sunday for the Tony Awards because the show she's in is nominated. It's an extraordinary opportunity for our community to have these performers, but beyond that, the opportunity for those professionals to mentor our young performers is just fantastic. Another performer who's been here quite a few times is Jim Hogan. He's part of he's actually in Kimberly Akimbo on Broadway right now as well. And he is also a singer with an a cappella sensation called T3. And he, during the pandemic, decided that he would maybe like to write some arrangements for Electric Youth. So although we tour with an 8-piece band and choreography and full staging, we also have the opportunity to sing these beautiful songs arranged by Jim Hogan, who is a master at the craft of a cappella writing. So we're going to sing for you tonight. I'm going to have my friends introduce themselves very quickly before we do.
My name is Erin Belger. I recently graduated from Hopkinton High School and will be attending University of Pittsburgh in the fall.
I'm Hannah Connors, and I'm a junior at Hopkinton High School.
My name is Finley Doherty. I'm a junior at Mount St. Charles Academy.
I'm Devin DeAngelis. I am a sophomore at Medway High School.
I'm Sydney Serden. I just graduated from Milford High School and I'll be attending Shenandoah University for musical theater.
My name is Anna Lindy, and I just graduated from Hopkinton High School, and I will be studying marketing at the University of Georgia.
I'm Easton Sanford, and I'm a junior at King Philip Regional High School.
I'm John Fitzhenry, and I'm a junior at Franklin High School.
I'm Madigan Workus, and I recently graduated from Mount St. Charles Academy, and I'll be attending the University of Virginia next fall as a double major in History and Media Studies. I'm Tatiana McAlpine, and I just graduated Franklin High School just this last week, and I will be going to Oklahoma City University for music theater.
I'm Macy Hoban, and I'm a junior at Medway High School.
I'm Anya Fox, and I'm a junior at Franklin High School.
I'm Audrey Minnenkamp, and I just recently graduated from FSB Academy, and I will be attending Arizona State University for musical theater.
I'm Ashley Pepin, and I'm a junior at Franklin High School. I'm Abby Trombert. I just graduated from Franklin High School, and in the fall I will be attending the University of Rhode Island to study psychology.
The song that they'll sing for you now is something that we will use as a thank you when we are hosted by the Duke of Montecuccoli and others throughout our travels. This is one that you'll recognize. This is Elton John's Your Song.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. Oh, I don't have much money, but boy, if I did, I'd buy a big house where we both could live.
If I was a sculptor, a Vatican, no, or a man who makes travel show. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. Oh, my gift is my song, and this one's for you.
And you can tell everybody this is your song.
It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is while you're in the world. This is your song, this is your song. Now that it's done, now that it's done, put down in words.
How wonderful life is while you're in the world. While you're in the world.
Boy, that was great.
Say hi to the Duke.
Of what?
Coca-Cola.
Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is appointments. First appointments are the annual reappointments of boards and committees. Jamie, you want to?
Yep. So through you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the council, the list of appointments is here for the annual list of reappointments to various committees. I just want to note at the top of the memo, if folks haven't seen it, we also listed out the remaining vacancies. I know that some of those are in the process by those committees of actually already being filled. You'll probably see around 2 of these with some of those filled slots for some of those other committees at the next meeting, but certainly not all of them. So If anybody out there is interested in volunteering on any of these other committees, go to franklinma.gov. There's a volunteer button right there. Click that button, fill out the form, and you get put into the queue, and the staff will get back to you, at an appropriate time. So obviously happy to answer any questions. I just want to note, obviously on here, there's one additional, out of the reappointments, there's one new appointment, which is for Bill Batchelor as a member of the Finance Committee for a full term. There's still an additional seat. There are plenty of other people that have applied. I'm interviewing them, I think, within the next couple of weeks, so hopefully there'll be another seat filled at the next meeting.
Thank you, Jamie. Clerk will read the appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is committee appointments for June 2023. The town administrator has appointed the following individuals to serve to boards and committees. Agricultural Commission, 3-year term, 5 members. Roger Trahan of 1 Green Street, June 30, 2026. Agricultural Commission, associate member, 1-year term. Capocha. Yeah, it's a good one. It's got a lot of Italian. 398 Prospect Street, June 30, 2024. Daniel Morse, associate, 15 Spring Street, June 30, 2024. Charles River, Pollution Control District, 3-year term, 3 members. Mark Cataldo of 63 Cleveland Ave, June 30, 2026. Conservation Commission, 3-year term, 7 members. Patrick Gallagher of 237 Conlin Ave, June 30, 26. Jeffrey Milne of 5 Colt Road, June 30, 2026. Council on Aging, 3-year term, 9 members. Kimberly Muchow of 4 Briarwood Road, June 30, 2026. Carolyn O'Brien of 31 Daniel Street, June 30, 2026. Cultural District Committee, 3-year term, 7 members. Amy Adams of 56 Jefferson Road, June 30, 2026. Roberta Trahan of 1 Green Street, June 30, 2024. Design Review Commission, 3-year term, 5 members. Sam Williams of 8 McCarthy Street, June 30, 2026. Finance Committee, 3-year term, 9 members. William Batchelor of 24 Shane Road, June 30th, 2026. Natalie Riley of 23 Conlin Ave, June 30th, 2026. Franklin Cultural Council, initial term, 2 years, 3-year term, 9 members. Pushpa Lantha Jangaradi, I actually got that right, 34 Lost Horse Trail, June 30, 2026. Swati Rowe of 1090 Pond Street, June 30, 2026. Franklin Disability Commission, 3-year term, 7 members. Deborah Bean of 78 Hillside Road, June 30, 2026. Randall J. of 294 Country Way, June 30, 2026. Historical Commission, 3-year term, 7 members. Phyllis Malcolm, 37 Angus Ave, June 30, 2026. Mary Olson, 149 West Central Street, June 30, 2026. Historical Commission associate members, 1-year term, William Lee of 18 Martin Ave, June 30, 2024. Kai Olson of 149 West Central Street, June 30, 2024. Housing Authority tenant at large member, 5-year term, Christopher Lennon, 72 Central Park Terrace, June 30, 2028. Library Board of Directors, 3-year term, 5 members. Kathleen Gerwatowski, 12 Greensfield Road, June 30, 2026. Metropolitan Area Planning Council, 3-year term, 1 member. Amy Love of 355 East Central Street, June 30, 2026. Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, 1-year term, Chris Feely of 5 Taft Drive, June 30, 2024. Maxine Kinhart here at the Municipal Building, June 30, 2024. Christopher Vericker of 63 Dean Ave, June 30, 2024. Susan Eunice of 47 Stone Ridge Road, June 30, 2024. Norfolk County Advisory Board, 1-year term, Peter Padula of 14 Fort Apache Drive, June 30, 2024. Recreation Advisory Board, 3-year term, 5 members. Robert DeLorco, 7 Wilson Road, June 30, 2026. Tri-County Regional School Committee, 3-year term, Peter Wernicke of 10 Park Road, June 30, 2026. Zoning Board of Appeals, 3-year term, 5 members. Robert Acevedo of 64 Maple Street, June 30, 2026. Motion to ratify the annual appointments to the following boards and commissions.
Second. Motion is second. Discussion. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome to everybody that was just appointed, and thank you for stepping forward and giving of your time. Okay, next item is Davis Thayer Building Reuse Advisory Committee. Clerk will read the appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an appointment for the Davis Thayer Building Reuse Advisory Committee. 3 Franklin Town Councilors: Ted Cormier Ledger of 3 Ashbury Drive, Debbie Pellegrini of 181 Pleasant Street, Patrick Sheridan of 48 West Street, Franklin Planning Board, Greg Rondo, 3 Ashley Circle, Citizens at Large, Megan McCarthy, 148 Dean Ave, Gwyneth Morse of 4 Maple Street, Christopher Stickney of 8 High Street, Roberta Trahan of 1 Green Street, and Sam Williams of 8 McCarthy Street. Motion to ratify the appointments of the names listed above by the town administrator to serve as members of the Davis Thayer Building Reuse Advisory Committee with terms to expire on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion, Jamie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, so as the memo states, almost 2 or 3 dozen folks applied. I did the best I could to get through all of that. A lot of qualified people, and I think a lot of people that are going to, what I'm hoping for is certainly an engaged public on the Davis Thayer Committee. Just through you, Mr. Chairman, a couple of the themes that are here in trying to how to sift through that many great applicants. We tried to look for a few criteria. One, critically to have a very open mind. As we go through this reuse process, I can attest from being through them before, it's a very complicated piece, how to keep an open mind to all of the options and the ideas and information that are there. I also looked at folks that were within the downtown region that maybe are stakeholders that are around the downtown area. Also trying to put a balance of generational Franklinites on there, which has a little bit of balance of certainly the past and the history and respect that, but also looking towards the future, because obviously the future use of the building is also critically important. And also some folks that had some level of skill, value-added piece. A couple of the members, or one of the members an architect, involved in real estate. One is the director of accounting and finance for Fidelity. Just some other skills to try to add some balance to the committee, not just town staff. And ultimately before you tonight are the 9 members that we're putting before. I'm very well aware that the chair has already announced the councilors on there, but the resolution at least states kind of for the public and shows the full slate, right? So they get the complete picture. I'm aware that formally you're voting on the other 6, but the resolution states obviously the full 9. So anybody has any questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions? Councilor Chandler?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Jamie. Thank you for doing all this. This was a big thing. I know that. I know, like, the master plan committee is a big deal, but I think from a resident standpoint, this is the one that's the most passionate. The one that I actually got, you talk about citizen engagement. I got a lot of questions on this. This was great. I hope other people did too. But just to give my 2 cents of what I was hearing, I know this is a long process, but I think people were pretty concerned about whether we were gonna rent, sell, or even give Davis Thayer to Dean College. So I just want people to know that a lot of people were concerned about that.
Yeah.
Just to start things off on that note. So
I think Councilor Pellegrini said, thank you very much.
Well, that's what I've been hearing, so thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian, I heard the same stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick comment. As an immediate abutter, I can't be on this board because my property is quite literally right next to Dean. I'm sorry, right next to Davis Thayer, which is right next to Dean. It was a joke going through the Davis Thayer back when I was there, that they couldn't officially close Davis Thayer until Councilor Jones got all of his kids through it. So I did successfully get all 5 of my kids through, with one exception. My last daughter missed out on her 5th year class at the school. She had to go to middle school. So I just wanted to state that I have full faith in the members that are going to be sitting on this advisory committee for the reuse of the Davis Thayer. I think, and I'm sure many of my councilors have all heard already, that the ultimate hope is that the Davis Thayer becomes some form of a community building in some sense, either arts, culture, or even a potentially reuse for the police department. I know Dean has always wanted it, but there's some very, very good reasons for us to retain the usage of this building. It is a historical building. I believe it was your high school, wasn't it, Mr. Chairman?
No.
Close.
It was close, but the answer is no. It was my junior high
I'm
school.
just joking, because it actually says Franklin High School across the front of the Davis Thayer
It
building.
was my father's high school.
There you go.
And my brother's.
There you go. There's one last statement I have to make before I close. One of the best things about Davis Thayer, when Davis Thayer was an elementary school, it was one of the top performing elementary schools in the state of Massachusetts as well as in the town of Franklin. And the one thing that really truly brought community to Davis Thayer was its location and the fact that it was one of the few schools in the town that actually parents, we didn't really typically have a drive-up line. People are actually allowed to mingle outside and pick up their kids, whereas most schools just have a drive-through and pick up their kids. Parents really got to mingle, and it really created such a great community in the downtown. And I want to thank all of the teachers and all the administrators and all the staff that worked in that building over the years to make it such a wonderful place. I'm sad to see it closing, but I'm looking forward to its next use, and I have full faith and trust in the members that we're appointing tonight. So.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Actually, just as a side note, I think Councilor Pellegrini might have spent her freshman year at Davis Thayer. Just saying. Councilor DeLorco.
Actually, I was going to say I thought she graduated.
You think it's easy, but
I'm glad I'm over here.
No, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I got full confidence in this committee. I think they'll do a good job. It was my father's high school for 3 weeks, and then the Depression hit, and his younger brothers and sisters were hungry, so he had to go to work. But that was outside of that, you know. Yeah, he always loved that building, and hopefully we can keep it and do something with it that benefits the town.
Thank you, Councilor DeLorco. Councilor Pellegrini, who will in fact chair this committee.
I would like to start off by saying I don't want to sit next to certain people next after this election. I want to thank everyone who sent in applications for this committee. I think it's going to be a good committee, reading over the applications and that. And we have only until December 31st to make our recommendation. And I wanted to know what happens after our recommendation is made. Is that followed? Or it comes back to the council?
Comes back to the council.
And the council will vote?
The council would end up, the ultimate decision is the council's.
Is the whole council.
But
Okay.
what we're looking for to come out of the reuse committee is some options, or 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Or 1 and 2 that you think might be something that we should consider. Then we would definitely have public hearings and so forth on this moving forward.
We will have public hearings.
We will
Because
have.
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Would we be holding public hearings for this now?
Through you, Mr.
Jamie.
Chairman. So there's a couple things. So everything you said obviously is 100% accurate. A couple other things. We're trying to get the movers in there to clean out the building so we can do an open house so people can have the
Right.
nostalgic visit through Davis Thayer. Also, at some point, we're going to need to take a walk through there anyways, just to see what the conditions are. We know it's structurally sound, we know the condition of the building, but, you know, contextually, the committee's gonna have to walk through there at some point to see some of the flaws in the building, i.e. like no elevators and some of the other things that are gonna limit the potential reuse of the building. And so, there'll be probably a couple visits to it. And then eventually, I cannot imagine, you know, there won't be, I don't think there's gonna be a legally required public hearing. But I think, Mr. Chairman, you know, there's gonna be a lot of chit chat and conversation about a lot of this. And I think the chairman said it best, you know, to limit it to one obvious use, well, that would be great, highly unlikely. Because remember, your fiduciary responsibility is to maximize the asset that the public owns. It's not really to choose and pick which it is and what one's the most popular or not popular. You have a huge asset that you are responsible for as a council, and you have to, at some point, maximize the benefit of that parcel. That could mean staying in the town's hands, it may not, it may be for another use, whatever it might be. But we're gonna have to carefully consider the economics of all of this, for sure. It's kind of a sidebar from the budget hearings, but, so I think there'll be plenty of input, and the goal would be for the committee to give a report back to the new council, obviously, next year, and say, here's the findings, here's the four corners of the puzzle, and here's a few choices.
And I can't imagine that they wouldn't hold public hearings.
Right.
I would
Certainly.
think, I would think. And through the chair to Jamie, we will be having a clerk, right? I know we have a clerk, but will we
Councilor
be?
Cormier Ledger.
No, but would we be having a secretary then to come in to take minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it'll either be in combination with us, we're doing kind of giving everybody kind of roles to try to help a little bit.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can do. I do minutes in my spare time for subcommittees, and we'll try to do the best we can to put them together. I'd like to have the meetings in here, so at least they're videotaped, but there's a lot of competition for this space right now and the training room, so we're gonna have to work on some of those issues, because our meeting, there's just too many committees meeting too much for this room to hold. So we're gonna have to try to look at some other options, but,
I
someone
just
on the
know that
staff.
it's difficult when you run a meeting, to be able to take your notes and all too, for minutes. So I would certainly like you to look into
Sure.
having someone be there to
Sure.
take minutes. And I didn't know with the police station building committee, were they doing the same thing?
We'll do something similar.
Something
We have
similar.
clerks appointed, but, and they in conjunction with the administration.
Yeah, good.
We'll get the minutes done.
Okay. And I think the background on a lot of these people are going to be excellent for our decision-making too. So Jamie, that was a good choice. And I look forward to setting up a first meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Any other councilors? Anybody else? Please.
Rick Spicone, Chestnut Street. I'll try to be brief. I'm not very good at being brief. This council, 6 months ago approximately, voted money for a consultant to look into optional sites. I heard it discussed one night at a meeting. It kind of went by really quickly. It was said that, I don't want to speak for Jamie, but I think if I'm not mistaken, it was said that COVID came, we couldn't get anything done. The consultant retired, and end of story. My question, and I pose this to Tommy, he knows I have, we put $150,000 in that study. I'd like to know, are we going forward? And I know I'm getting ahead here, but I want to kind of throw down the gauntlet early, because you all have heard from me, and the chief and others know how passionate I am that I think that should be our next police station. For all the reasons that I will bring to this committee, every time this committee meets, I'll be there to bring the same things up. Centrally located, 4 floors. To say that there's any drawbacks, and I take exception to what Jamie said, respectfully, there are no drawbacks in that building, because that building will be a blank slate if we're gonna build our $30 million police station there. We will clear that building out of nothing but 4 walls. Elevator, we'll build the best elevator that we can. Handicapped accessible, whatever we need, we'll do it. Franklin does it that way. So there are no, we will do, and I'll take a point to remind those in this room. Many years ago, I worked for a company in the center of Franklin. We lost the entire building to a fire. Johnny Padula was the general contractor, and he came in and said, and we were going to throw the building away. Johnny Padula came in and said, you save the 4 walls, you pin them together so they won't fall down, and you build anything you need inside for the people who need inside. Well, as we all know, you know what that building is? That building's the black box. And it was the Crowley office supplies that got completely burnt out, and we saved 4 walls and built a brand new, beautiful facility that now these wonderful kids get to use all the time that we saw tonight. So that Davis there will be just as sparkling a gem as our senior center when we're done. And if the chief want it to be the case, and I hope it is, and I will fight for it probably vehemently, unless someone shows us someplace better, unless someone shows us real reason why we shouldn't do it, whether it be asbestos concerns, elevator concerns, poppycock, we can do it. Money goes everywhere. If we're gonna spend the money to build a police station, that's where it should be. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, is there any other questions on the appointments? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have a few public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is a license modification, change of officers, directors, LLC managers, change of stock interest, Dharma Bhakti Corporation doing business as Liquor World, located at 365 West Central Street, Franklin, Mass. 02038. And I will declare that public hearing open. Is there anyone in the public that would, Jamie, you want to do a lead-in?
Just through you, Mr. Chairman, I think generally the stock interest related issues, these are just kind of pass-throughs for the Commonwealth. I've probably commented too many times on them, so I'll spare you all again. Thank you.
Thank you for sparing us that.
Good evening. Good evening, councilors.
Please, name and address.
Yes, Matthew Porter, 480 Turnpike Street, southeast of Massachusetts. I'm the attorney for Dharma Bhakti Corporation. Right. What Jamie said is correct. This is just an internal transfer. One of the four existing shareholders is exiting. Two new shareholders are coming in who bring a wealth of experience in the industry. One of them works at the store on a full-time basis as well. So no changes to the structure of the business, no changes to the manager, just an internal change of transfer of stock, and the person leaving is resigning in their director role.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions from the council? Any questions from anybody out in Zoom land? Council chambers? Okay, I will declare the public hearing on license modification, change of officers for Liquor World. I declare the public hearing closed. We'll now go to license transactions, and clerk will read the license transaction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a license transaction, change of officers, directors, LLC managers, change of stock interest for Dharma Bhakti Corporation doing business as Liquor World at 365 West Central Street, Franklin, Mass. 02038. Dharma Bhakti Corporation, DBA Liquor World, located at 365 West Central Street, Franklin, Mass. 02038, is seeking approval for multiple modifications of their Section 12 all alcoholic beverages license to include a change of officer, directors, LLC managers, and change of stock interest. All departments have signed off on this application. Motion to approve the request by Dharma Bhakti Corporation, DBA Liquor World, for change of officers, directors, LLC managers, and change of stock interests.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have 3 more public hearings, and they're all basically the same, same subject. So I'm going to declare the public hearings on zoning bylaw amendment 23-894, 23-895R, and 23-896. I declare those public hearings open. So, Jamie, you want to do a quick lead?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Just for everybody's quick background, these three pieces of legislation that are now in the public hearing process, that are also legislation for actions, are all first reading. Number two, these are bills that are legislation that have been through the EDC plus steering committee, which was a 6-0 to 1 vote. The one abstention was the chairman of the ZBA committee, who didn't think we needed to do any of this. And the rest of the committee voted in the affirmative to move forward to the council. The council, at its public hearing a couple months ago, as the referral to the planning board process, amended one piece of the three, okay? Where basically, on the use table, the council amended it to allow, instead of allowing all of the accessory dwelling units by special permit, allowed in R1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, and 7, R1, R2, R6, and R7 allowed them by right. So 3 of the pieces of legislation, the planning board had a public hearing, and they recommended back to the council to approve those as written. So just so we're clear, 2 of the 3 pieces of legislation, everybody agrees on, okay, essentially.
Right.
The one area of difference, the planning board is recommending back to the council to change back that those 4 zoning districts from by right back to special permit.
Okay.
They had a public hearing on this. There was feedback from both. I know the building commissioner, Mr. Chairman, I think, has some remarks he wants to point out during the public hearing. I know the building commissioner also went to the planning board public hearing. But just for the council to try to keep this as simple as possible for everybody, 2 of the 3 pieces of legislation, everybody agrees on all the substance. There was no recommendations from the planning board to change anything. Just that one piece on the use table, which is legislation 9B, the planning board is recommending back to the council to go back from by right on R1, R2, R6, and R7, which is one category, to change that back to Board of Appeals special permit. I did the best I could to try to synthesize that for everybody. I know it's complicated, I understand that, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware, you know, the vast majority of everything here, everybody, the EDC Plus committee, the council, the planning board, everybody agrees on. The one issue is R1, R2, R6, and R7 in that one part of the principal use table, the accessory use table, on accessory dwelling units. That's the one issue of difference where the planning board is requesting. I've had many questions, Mr. Chairman, I think you have as well. Why is the legislation in here the same as the council reported back to the planning board? The planning board only makes a recommendation back to the council. So the legislation has not been altered, because that's not the process. It doesn't get altered. The planning board simply recommends back after they're hearing something. So a few people here have had questions. I've gotten a few offside. I know you have as well. I'm sure other councilors have. So that's why the legislation is still in the form that the council approved it a month and a half ago.
Right.
Happy to obviously answer any questions. Brian, oh, there he is. Brian's back. And also, I know the building commissioner would like to speak at some point, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, since this is a public hearing, I will go to the public first. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak on any of these zoning bylaw amendments? No, I'm going to go to him after. Is there anyone out in Zoom land that would like to speak on either of these 3 zoning bylaw amendments? I don't see any. Do you, Jamie?
Heather was on, just let in, but she's on there twice, I think. So,
Okay.
But I don't
Give
see
a couple of
any- I don't see
seconds
any
here.
hands.
I don't see anybody else. So with that, I'll go to the building commissioner. I know he wanted to make a comment, so.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Thank you for having me speak on this matter. So I'm going to cut to the chase here and talk about some of the things, some of the notes I made, and try to get my point across. So when the ADU bylaw was first introduced many months ago, I thought, why try to fix something that basically has been always previously approved when we've had ADUs in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals? As the process moved forward, it became apparent that there was more to consider about this. After giving this matter more thought, I have reached the opinion that we should allow ADUs the right to not require a relative to live in the home. So I think we've got to that point where everyone is somewhat in agreement with that. I think that's a huge step forward for people that want to have these ADUs on their property, but still require a special permit from the ZBA for the zones that Jamie actually brought up. Of the many ADUs that the Zoning Board of Appeals has approved, currently the neighbors are provided the chance to give their feedback both to the people looking to build the ADUs and the zoning board. What worries me is this: if an ADU were to be introduced to a property in an open space subdivision, and I'm going to name off Bridle Path, it's also Skyline Drive is a perfect example of zones that don't meet the criteria of that rural one zoning, but are in that zone. They're basically half the size of what's required because they donated open space to the town. So those are the ones that worry me. And we also have an obligation to notify the abutters too. That's my opinion, and that's the way it is now. You see, the building department already sees a high volume of phone calls from residents wondering why they weren't notified of a construction project. It happens every day in my world, and we try to do the best we can to get people through it. Sometimes they're a little bit upset, and I say, in this particular case, if it's a construction project with an addition that's not an ADU, they don't have to be notified as long as they meet the zoning bylaws. So, with that said, should ADUs be granted by right? I foresee many cases in the future where abutters feel blindsided by the news that an ADU has been given a go-ahead to be built on a nearby property. It's important for a town such as Franklin to maintain a position of control, but if you make this as a right, you lose control. I asked the council to vote down any allowed by right ADUs. I've been here for 25 years, and this process that the ZBA has worked with has been without any issues. I'll take any questions you have too.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Questions or comments from the council? I'm going to go to Councilor Hamblin first, since she chairs that.
Can I ask Gus
You
a question?
absolutely can.
Gus, could I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm just like, when you talk about Skyline and those areas don't fit the setbacks of a regular rural residential one, so that would automatically then become a special permit, even if it was by right, is my understanding. Is that?
Not necessarily. It could become a variance because they might not meet the setbacks that's required or the coverage.
Right, so, but it would then go to a special permit if it, in that area, right? I mean, then we have to like.
If you decided to make it by right, there's a possibility in some of those areas that they wouldn't need any approval. It depends on how the lot is shaped, where they're gonna put the ADU. The ADU could be attached to the house, and it actually could meet all the criteria it needs. So if you approve this without the requirement of a special permit, this is what I'm talking about. I hate to use the word blindsided, but we get phone calls every day where people are upset that something's being built next to their home, and why weren't they notified? I think the way this process works now is flawless, because we haven't denied any. There's been 1 in 25 years that we've denied, or ZBA has denied, and I feel like this is the way to proceed. Like I had said earlier, it's important for a town to maintain the control, because there has to be some sense of that so that the neighbors don't get blindsided. I have a situation right now in the eastern part of town, eastern part of Franklin, where there's something on the property that was done without a permit. And if it is by right, and this is an ADU that hasn't gone through the process, if it's done by right, we're going to get the same feedback from people, I believe. That's my opinion, that they're not gonna be able to get notified, and why is this next door to me now? Why did this happen? I think we made leaps and bounds with the committee, the EDC, and to get this to the point where we don't require it to be a relative. I think that's a huge step forward for a lot of people. That helps people out if they have financial issues. To Councilor Frangello's comments during this whole process, we want more housing in Franklin, and I couldn't agree more with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gus.
You all
Okay.
set?
Can I continue?
You can certainly continue. Gus, if we have questions.
I'm not gonna,
we'll
I
bring
just
it.
have a statement.
Okay.
I really just like, I just want
Okay.
to say what I think right now, but it's not like directed towards you, Gus, so.
Okay, should I turn my back?
So you can take you can take a seat or just stand.
I'll stand.
You can stand if you want, maybe you want to.
He's expecting more
I'm gonna
questions.
have to come back.
You're gonna come back? Or do you want, do you want to?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Because we can, if anybody wants to ask.
Well,
ask
because
a
I think
question.
during discussion, there'll be more questions, but.
Okay, all right. So I can,
Go ahead.
I'll just read my thing.
Go for it.
So I wanted just to make sure that everyone understood that this is another proposal from the recommendations of the Franklin for All project. So I wanted to have a chance to thank the steering committee from the planning board, Chair Greg Rondo, the clerk Beth Whirling, the zoning board of appeals Chair Bruce Hunchard, my fellow colleagues on the economic development subcommittee, Councilors Jones, Sheridan, and Vice Chair Frangillo. It was an amazing ride, and it's great that we brought these things out and had to change it, and we got a few things changed. So I would also like to thank the town staff, especially planner Amy Love, for her work on this bylaw. It is obvious that a lot of work went into it, and it is thoroughly thought out and well written. I'd also like a quickly thank the entire planning board for discussing this at the public hearing that they had, right? In my mind, this is how the process should go. Proposals recommended to the full council, sent to the planning board, we review it, the council discusses it, we decide what we think is the best thing for the whole town. And from the economic development standpoint, we think about like, well, what's the best thing to help our revenue? And then it goes to the planning board, they have a public hearing, they discuss it. The proposal comes back to us with recommendations. And then nowhere does it say that this proposal has to remain the same throughout this whole process. And I think that is the point. We need to have things change, and so we can discuss them, we can understand. Now we all have heard what Gus has to say, right? So now we can understand where Gus is coming from. And that's really important, I think, for us to be able to get to what we think is the best possible proposal. And maybe, just maybe hear something a little different from somebody that makes us think, like, oh, maybe that, I haven't thought of that yet. All right, our goal here is to incrementally increase density, which will add to revenue and not increase infrastructure costs to the town, as well as just plainly building houses for people. For example, allow a homeowner to age in place, or to be able to house someone, maybe like a home health aide, or to be able to bring in income into their home. The recommendations through the Franklin for All project were to create a definition so people will know that ADAs are allowed in town. That's a big thing, right? Mm-hmm. And can figure out the process to apply, how to apply and how to build an ADU. It also recommends that we allow some of these by right in some of the zones. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the definition. I am a champion of celebrating every step forward we take. We have a long road to go, and these are steps. As Gus said, we have I think there's 2 steps, not just one. But I'm being optimistic today, I guess. The one is to remove the 4-family restriction. I think that's really huge. That makes a big deal. That is a big deal. The other one in the definition is to allow ADUs in single and 2-family homes. So that's another change. So there's 2 changes there. To me, it's like baby steps, but it's okay. There's 2 changes. I'm going to celebrate that. And we all agree that this is a good definition, and that can help incrementally increase density. Okay, so then we go to the use schedule table that Jamie talked about, where we disagree. And we're trying to make, through the Franklin for All project, we're trying to make the process of building less cumbersome to the builder, to the person who owns the home, right? It's obvious to me that people whom I respect and trust don't think that doing this by right is a good idea. I'm also driven to find consensus, and I'm happy that we have taken a couple of small steps forward toward making it easier for people to build ADUs. I truly believe that it's important to have these civil discussions because we don't totally always agree all the time, and it's much better to be able to understand each other. And I'm okay with recommending what the planning board said, with the caveat that we still agree that we have more steps to go to make it easier for people to do this. And I know that the process has always been, it has always worked, but who has it worked for? Has it really worked for the people who are trying to get this done? I mean, we heard somebody at one of our public hearings say, it's not easy. But I hope that the things that we have agreed on will help. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Hamlin. Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the EDC, thank you to the planning board. When this came up last time, I didn't really handle everything so well. I kind of took some of the stuff personal, so I'd like to just talk for a second. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so this is no surprise because this is how I've been the last 4 years. I always believe that people have a right to do whatever they want on their property, by right, okay, these accessory dwellings. And I don't think the zoning board of appeals, I don't want to see them deny any resident that wants to help their child or elderly parents move on to their property, okay? You guys have made some great points, but the real question I have is, why are we doing this that some zones can just do by right and not everybody? I think everybody should have that right, everybody, not just some zones. I just don't really understand that. And as another counselor just said, the process isn't easy. So if it was by right, it would be easy. And, you know, I just don't like this, where you guys talk about, to Mr. Brown, control. I don't want to control everybody. I want them to have a right, especially when it comes to their kids and their parents. I just want them not to have to go, I hate to use the word beg, but why do they have to go to the zoning board of appeals? You know, it's like this control stuff. It's like, you know, we're all adults here. No one has to tell us, don't run with scissors, don't eat yellow snow. It's not what we're here to do, you know? We're all adults. And I know a lot of people worked very hard on this, and and Jamie can attest to this, I've always just been, people have a right, the whole Constitution, everything. So I feel a little badly because I know this is not gonna pass, I mean, it's gonna pass except for me, but I just needed to get that out. And I'm gonna do this. I'd actually like to make a motion to amend 23895R.
We're still in public hearing.
Okay, then I will yield the floor and make a motion afterwards. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this is a question I think for Mr. Brown. I think it had come up previously, but regardless if an ADU is by right or through ZBA that gets approved, a permit is still going to be required.
That is correct.
Yes. Because there's going to be electrical involved, there's going to be framing involved, there's going to be plumbing involved. Like, so regardless of this particular discussion, somebody doing this to their house is still going to be legally required to get a permit through your office, right?
That is correct.
And have licensed appropriate contractors for all the things I just said.
There will be an oversee of that project, absolutely.
So,
From the town.
Right, so, to me, Gus, that is the control piece, right? Because that's your department's oversight of making sure things are done correctly, making sure the proper steps are handled, the contracts are done correctly, your staff go out and check on things, right? So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that, to me, that seems like, even if it was by right and somebody had to pull all the permits, the town still has quite a bit of control over the project, right?
You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
In that case.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor DeLarco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're absolutely right, Ted. But my concern is that the neighbors wouldn't have any right then, right? They wouldn't have any.
If it was by right.
If it was
that's
right,
correct.
they wouldn't have any
They'd have
right.
no
So the
say.
neighbors wouldn't come.
Right.
So if somebody, like if my neighbor was doing it and it came up and it was just by right and I didn't know it, my city time might come back and they might have broken windows at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? That could happen.
Yeah.
You know, that, and that's what I'm worried about more than anything is the fights that they would have. I mean, just saying that could happen. I mean, the fight with the neighbors, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I've seen it. So, I mean, that's what my concern is that the neighbors have a say. They might get along and everything would be fine, but next thing you know, you would get a call because there's a backhoe in the backyard digging a hole to add on an addition, and the next thing you know, the neighbor's calling and saying, what's going on? I think that's a big important part.
I don't want to talk about myself, but I'm going to. I pride myself in what I do.
Yeah.
You know I have passion, just like Councilor Chandler. I want to say something back to you in a minute if I could, but we'll get through the other ones. Yeah, the passion is that we want things done in a fashion that makes everyone happy.
Right.
When
That's
they
what-
when
that's
they
what I'm
come into
getting
my
to.
office, I don't want them leaving angry.
Right.
And sometimes as you know, this week, we don't always.
me and you
we don't.
just- yeah, we always-
We don't always get to
Yeah,
that
we
point,
didn't
but.
get we didn't get too good with that
You
one.
take it personally, you take it home. The situation we ran into,
Yeah.
you know, you just don't know. You don't know how a person's gonna leave a situation. You do your best and you hope for the best.
Thank you. Councilor Pellegri?
Through the chair. This has been going on for a long time. And way back when I was even there, they had apartments that people could move into, and it was supposed to be with family members. And it was difficult to keep track of that. Once people moved out, the people that were moving in, how are we going to know that they now were family members? So I can remember putting a program on my computer so that any of these that were approved by the zoning board or planning, whomever at the time, whenever anybody moved out and I had to put new people in, I had to notify your department. I'm wondering if that's still being taken care of that way. How are you knowing who's going into the apartment when someone is moving out that was a family member?
It's a challenge, but I think the leaps
Yeah.
and bounds that the EDC has made to, lack of a better word, squash it, so that now it doesn't have to be a relative. You don't have to go to the registry of deeds.
And that's great.
I think
That's
it's
good.
fantastic. I think it's a
Yeah.
Real
huge
good.
move in the right direction because
Absolutely.
it opens up, it may not be what everyone on this council wants tonight, but it's a move in the right direction to at least keep the special permit criteria in the loop. And we haven't denied any. And I get it when people say it's difficult. My job's difficult. Every day I have to tell people, I need a plot plan for this. I need you to get this approval. I try to do it with a smile on my face, but sometimes it's just very difficult to get your point across with people because it boils down to dollars and cents. But I think this is a unique town. The way we vote things in as a city government, we can make changes along the way. And I just think that makes us more unique than maybe even a larger city because it's a small town feel. Well, it used to be, but it's it's a small town feel.
I think that in the past, and even right now, until all this is passed, we've encouraged people to lie. They would say that Mary Smith is my cousin, or this one is the, I've had it happen, you know? And it's not good. We should allow people to have whomever they want to move into the apartment. I think that it's fair for everyone. It's fair for your department to be able to take care of things. I think that this is going to work out very, very well. Thanks for all your work. And to the EDC for
It's
your
my
work.
pleasure. Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Councilor Frangillo.
Thank you. I've been beaming at all the comments by my colleagues. So many very strong points, and especially Councilor Chandler. I think that was very well said. Yeah, the question of so right now we're talking about, we agree on everything. We're talking about this idea of by right or special permit in the most rural areas, and the sort of statement has been, well, the process of the zoning board works, that the process to date has worked. And I think Councilor Hamblin made a great point of who has it worked for? Because we know that we have a need, both for young professionals to live in town and for our aging population to be able to live in town. Just to put one stat behind it, 56% of homes in Franklin have one or two people living in them. So it's mostly singles or couples. Only 12% of homes are one bedrooms, right? So those are inherently larger spaces than they might need. That is less affordable, right? As we talk about affordable not only as deed restricted, but also affordable as in just types of units that are affordable to people at different price points. That's the need, right? We also know that we have a need for revenue and continuing to have new growth in town. I don't think that should be forgotten. And so in response to this, a whole bunch of geographies have recognized the benefit of accessory dwelling units and wanting to make it easier. The entire state of California legalizes accessory dwelling units by right. Connecticut, the entire state of Connecticut legalizes accessory dwelling units by right. The entire state of Vermont legalizes accessory dwelling units by right. I did a Google search, tried to find all the communities that legalize it by right. I found 21, Reading, Holliston, Foxborough, Acton. There was actually a piece of the economic development bill last year that the entire Senate supported the addition of a law that would have made it mandatory to have it by right everywhere across the state. That was voted and passed through the Senate, and it only didn't end up becoming law because of the tax kickback that changed the economic development. Right, so this is the where people are going. The question is why, right? What does it mean to be by right? And I think Councilor Hamlin made a nice clarification that we're only talking about by right within the footprint of what's currently allowed in that area. If you want to build it closer to your neighbors or outside of where you actually could build your home currently, then you would still need to go in front of the zoning board for a variance, as we all do, right? If there's an exception to the rule, you still need permission and sort of need to make your case for that. And to Councilor Cormier-Ledger's point, by right still means that you need a building permit, right? So this isn't that it gets that you get to just throw something out. So what is the difference between by right and zoning board? By right means that it's us saying there are certain things that we want, that we know that we have a need, and this is one way to address that need, and this makes it easier to do so and limits the financial and time and energy risk that people have to take to move forward in order to get a special permit. A special permit can be denied on many grounds, including neighborhood character, social structure, right? There's a lot of subjective reasons that a special permit could be denied. And so more than whether it's been denied before, the fact that it can be denied is inherently a risk for people moving forward. And thus, and we already heard from someone at the Economic Development Committee meeting saying the very risk of having to come forward and state their case and have to potentially go up to multiple meetings might be prohibitive, right? So there might be projects that we're not even seeing because of needing to take the financial risk. This is why, again, California, Connecticut, and all these places have already made it by right. Vermont, by the way, just passed that everywhere in the state has to be now allow 2 families by right everywhere in Vermont, and 3 or 4 families by right in all downtowns in Vermont. So, you know, we say that we want affordable housing units. We say that we want more revenue. This is an opportunity. I think the fact that we're struggling to even get it in the most rural areas is indicative that we're behind the times. And this is a really good opportunity to make one small step forward to addressing some of the needs that we know we have. That's why we're doing it. It's why I support the compromise to have it in the rural areas. It's why I would support an amendment to make it everywhere allowed by right. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Councilor Jones? I'll just give my 2 cents worth. I don't support the by right and at this juncture. I support the bylaw. I support all 3 of them. I think they're great steps forward. One of my concerns continues to be, as Councilor DeLarco said, the neighbors. By going by right, the neighbors do not get an opportunity to see or speak about what's getting built right next to them. They do not get that opportunity. I do believe that in these bylaws, we are making steps forward, getting away from it being a family member, getting away from it being attached. I think we are making steps forward. My concern is maybe we're going too fast, because once you give something, you aren't taking it back. It isn't coming back. And we can tweak these things as we move forward. We had the Franklin for All committee that did a lot of work and worked through this and came forward with a recommendation to the council. And I support that recommendation, and I will continue to support that recommendation. Is it everything everybody wanted? No. And it clearly is not. But it's a start. And my concern is that, you know, if 6 months from now, we want to change it and adjust it to putting by right in 1 or 2 zones, fine. But let's take, I think Councilor Hamblin and I spoke about whether it's baby steps or middle steps, but it is steps, and it's steps forward. And that's how I feel about it. Is there anybody else? We are still in public hearing. Is there anybody else that has a comment? Brian? Sorry, you were right behind the pole. I couldn't.
I just put my hand up. You didn't miss anything.
Okay.
I just want to address the issue that, the amendment that was made previously before it was sent to the planning board. For the record, I'm Brian Taberner, Director of Planning Community Development. So one column in the chart was changed and sent on to the planning board. What that did was it would give by right in those 4 different zoning districts are in that column. Zone 1, 2, 6, and 7. So we talk about each individually for 1 minute. Zone residential 7, the only place on the map is right down near the new development. Those homes are 15 feet apart. An ADU probably shouldn't be allowed in those units. But if they're not allowed, if they are allowed, they should not be allowed by right. Okay? Under residential 6, it's a very similar situation. A lot of them are units, they're close together, they're connected, things of that nature. It's not a great place for ADUs. If you're going to allow them by a special permit in an area like that. On residential 1 and 2, now, Mr. Brown had mentioned that in some districts that we have open space subdivisions, and in that case, the lots are smaller. They're substantially smaller. They only need to be 50% of the actual zoning district regulations. So instead of a 40,000 square foot lot, they can be a 20,000 square lot. Or their side setbacks are only half of what is allowed in the district. So your houses are a lot closer together in those areas there. We have 18, I believe, subdivisions like that in the town. So those areas, I mean, how do you treat them different? They're in the zoning district, zone 1 or 2, but the lot sizes are much, much smaller. And that's why in those areas, a special permit was actually working, because each lot is really different. It's not, they're not 40,000 square foot lots everywhere. So what's changed, I understand that allowing ADUs by right in some circumstances is great, but the amendment that was made, I don't believe was appropriate for R6 and R7 at all, but if it's going to go to 1 and 2 at a minimum, you would, I don't know, I think maybe it's almost like you want to allow it under certain circumstances. If your lot is big enough for a house, right, 40,000 square feet or whatever, treat it, okay, you can have an ADU by right, but if it's not that big, then you need a special permit. Or do something along those lines. And that's not the way the bylaw is written up right now, but that's what I'm saying. You need to do something if you're going to allow any by rights like that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Jamie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really quickly, just to maybe summarize before the hearing closes, just a couple quick thoughts. I think what the public is hearing tonight is not consensus. You've got the planning director, the staff, we even have some slightly different views on these things. That's okay. But we're at the moment of taking a bylaw and making actually a substantial change. The council, planning board, ZBA, we're not all in agreement on this issue. I think that has to give all of us just a little pause to say, are we running too fast here? Maybe we are running with scissors. Maybe we are eating yellow snow. Maybe we are saying, if this is how we all feel in the room, out here, this is probably the same type of disagreement people are going to have when these start coming in. I think if we don't show a consistent opinion on it, and we don't recognize that all of us are disagreeing and agreeing on some of these issues, that's likely the way the public is going to perceive these things as well. And that may be the reaction people have to certain ADUs in their property or their neighbors or their street. I agree with everybody's comments about the progress here. I can't understand, this is not baby. Even if this is to go back to the way the EDC Plus committee had it, I have to say, this is a major, major change in zoning in Franklin for the better. The definition, the use table, the ZBA has only denied one in its history, and no one even knows what ADUs were until a few years ago. So if we do more promotion, we do more education, as we've talked about, I think the rational step, kind of like inclusionary zoning, by the way, where everybody didn't agree and get everything they wanted, right? We took a huge step forward. Just as context, down the street, we now have a couple of housing proposals coming in after the inclusionary zoning. So those are successful. We're seeing that come to light. I would just my last comment, Mr. Chairman, is the issues is, and I know Gus said the word control. Really, the issues are much more about, I think, much more about civility, in the sense that the issues aren't just about the electrician, it's about parking. How many people get complaints about parking on side streets? It's about drainage, it's about the gradient on a slope, where are people gonna put them? What happens if they don't go right? What are those impacts? I think what the staff are asking the council to do is take the big step forward on all of this package. Let's see how these go for a year or two. Let's get some experience under our belt here. Let's get some data to see exactly what is the need out there. Do we even see applications from these? Are there experiences where the ZBA then does deny somebody an ADU? I hear a lot about the ZBA denying people things. I don't think they deny very many people anything at all. Our zoning code has special permit across the board everywhere on zoning districts on all sorts of issues. We have special permit in zoning codes, every town does, for a reason. The reason is to make sure we're doing things and growing the character and the civility of the community correctly. So I would just summarize, hopefully, Mr. Chairman, by just simply saying, I think this is an amazing conversation. I think everybody has incredibly great points, even on the control issue. I agree with Councilor Chandler on a lot of these issues. But I think as a community, taking that step forward for a year or two and seeing exactly how these are, how they work out, what the new experience is in this new world of growing multi-generational households is a much more civil step forward than running all the way out and saying we're just going to allow them by right everywhere, because I think that there is a potential consequence to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now you want to speak?
Yes.
Councilor Jones?
I do. Just a quick comment, really. The fact is, this has been vetted multiple times over. We've had thousands of discussions about this issue. It went through the Economic Development Plus. It went through the planning board. It went through the council. The general consensus has been that it remain under special permit for R1, R2, R6, and R7, and that we revert this bylaw back to read by special permit for those zones. However, and I think that's how we should vote on this tonight, is pass it so that we can move forward with these major steps. But based on Brian's comments, I think he's got a valid point in regards to R1 and R2, in regards to, in the future, and as our chairman quite so eloquently put it, we can actually readdress these issues and make those potential changes based on more information and based on further discussion in regards to those two zones, so that if we do make a choice to make those by right, that we have A, the correct public input, and B, the correct text that ultimately states A, what the lot sizes would be, location, just et cetera, et cetera. In other words, we go back and we revisit those two particular zones and kind of vet those out separately down the line.
Can I have a point of information?
This is public hearing. So,
Okay, I think there's misinformation. Point of information, I'm trying to get my Robert's rules. To clarify misinformation, I think that we're allowed to butt in.
what's your point of information?
Yeah. It's been said that, and this is a question, if under the current rules that say allowed by right in the rural areas, if you bring a project that's within 15 feet in R7 right here, can you build that accessory dwelling unit based on the current regulations, or do you need to go in front of the zoning board of appeals?
Sorry, Councilor Frangella, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, the way that it's currently written.
Without the amendment? Or
No, with the amendment that's currently there.
Okay.
So yes, in R7.
Cook's Farm down
Cook's
here.
Farm.
Yep.
Cook's Farm. Cook's Farm. Someone brings an accessory dwelling unit proposal that, as Mr. DeBerner said, it is within 15 feet of a neighbor. Is that allowed by right, according to our proposal? Or do they have to go in front of the zoning board of appeals?
if they can meet the setbacks, it would be by, if the amendment passed, it would be by right, and if they met the setbacks, there would be no overview from any board. So someone could put, conceivably, there's some larger lots down there, especially in the back, that I'd have to look at a plot plan. I don't know if it would fit.
The setbacks in R7 are 40 feet.
No, it was
No,
amended.
that's not true.
That's not true.
I'm looking at the.
Right, there's
This
an,
is my point of, I mean, it's a question.
Yeah, that's Brian.
Yeah.
Someone,
I'd be happy to
Yeah.
try to respond. The setback, number one, the development is a condo ownership, so it's only one lot with all those houses on it, okay? So that's why you have a 40-foot setback around the perimeter of the lot, but not between the buildings. The regulations called it at least 15 foot in between the buildings, okay? So that's kind of a weird one, because if somebody wanted to build an ADU separate from their building, they would be building on the condo association property. I don't think they would allow it. In that case, though, if you're allowing an ADU by right, they could have ADUs internal to the building without changing the shape of the building at all. They might add an additional door, do something like that, and they could have an ADU inside of every one of those units down there. If they get individual separate permits, or if you allow them by right, then they would be coming to the building commissioner asking for a building permit to add a kitchen in each of those structures, and they could do it by right, which is kind of, the neighbors paid a lot of money for those homes. I don't think they're going to want everybody in the neighborhood to have a second kitchen in their house. So regardless of,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, that is what would happen or what could happen if it was allowed.
Okay, I think the point of information, my understanding was 15 feet between the buildings down there. And it's 40 feet around the perimeter. That's the question you asked.
Okay.
What are the setbacks in Zone 7?
yeah, it was, we used Cook Farm as an example, and then.
It's the only Zone 7 in Franklin.
Okay, 6, 7, 2, 4, can you build within 15 feet of your neighbor by right? Even if we say yes on here. If it's a condo, you have to ask your condo owner, okay. But outside the condo owner, because we already agreed that the condo owner wouldn't say yes to that. If it's a home, can you build within 15 feet, even if it's a yes on here?
I am not the zoning enforcement officer, however, in the R7, the ADU could be internal to the structure that is there. And if you allow it by right, they would be able to get it by right, internal to the building, not adding on and not having separate structures.
Yeah, I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong, and we talked about this. I think that we said you can't have any accessory dwelling unit within either 10 feet of your neighbor or what's currently allowed in that zone, whichever is greater. And so, even if your home is within 15 feet of your neighbor, currently, you can't add accessory dwelling unit without a variance, because it's not within the area that we said is allowed. Right, the point of information is to say, we're making it sound like, oh, you're just gonna build them anywhere. No, what we've put down is say you can only build where you're already allowed to be built.
This is an opinion.
It's not an opinion, it's right, I'm clarifying, that's what we said.
Would you like me to try to clarify?
Yes, please.
Accessory buildings and structures, one of the sections we're hoping to amend with this, it adds in a subsection B6 for accessory dwelling units. The other sections in there do address all of the different setbacks for accessory use, buildings and structures. These are for separate buildings. When you have an accessory building that is separate from the principal residence in this section. In those cases, this defines when you can have it, and when you can't have it, and how far away from the property line, and things of that nature. So, and because this is a condo association situation, and all R7s would be, okay, that it really kind of, it's hard to address some of these. For instance, no accessory building or structure shall be located within a required front yard setback. Well, there's like no setback on those buildings to begin with. They're very small. You know, so these things, some of these things are no-brainers, and others are no accessory building structure, any size shall be closer than 10 feet to any principal building or other accessory building. So you can't build it within 10 feet of your own primary structure, but that's a separate building, and those would not be allowed in any area. So this whole section is for additional structures in addition to the primary residential. If you only have the primary residential, these do not apply at all, okay? So therefore, I don't know, what I'm saying, R7, a lot of times R6 is the same way, they're clustered buildings, things like that. In that case, you're not going to get in the external buildings permitted unless some R6 already has them, in which case they would be applying for a permit there. They're going to be internal to the actual principal unit, is where the accessory unit would be allowed. So if you want to allow them by right in those two zones, then you know what you're going to get. You're not, you know, it's very easy to see what you're going to get in 7, but 6, there's several of them around town, and they're all a little different. So.
You got your point of information?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I finish?
Yes, you can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So rudely interrupted.
Just continue,
Nope,
please.
that's fine. Under accessory dwelling units for residential units, as I was stating, I think it was the general consensus from the planning board, from the EDC, as well as the majority of the council to agree that these should be remain or reverted back to by right. That's my general opinion. This will be a great step moving forward, and I think we can definitely address those two other zones for future legislation, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other, Councilor Cormier?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I know this is running long. This is just a clarifying question too.
Please.
To Gus. And I apologize if this has come up in the EDC meetings and maybe I missed it, but is an ADU, I would assume by definition, is going to be considered at least one additional bedroom if somebody was to build one, right?
I don't believe that that's the way the bylaw reads.
It's up to 2.
Up to 2.
So, but the number of bedrooms will have to be added to the number of bedrooms on the primary home on the lot, correct?
I think if you're on a private septic system, then it could be just what you said.
Well, and that's my concern, because, and this is just more for everyone's benefit, the law states the septic system is by bedroom, not by people,
100%.
and not by capacity.
Right.
So if somebody has a 3-bedroom septic system, they add an ADU with 1 or 2 more bedrooms, the septic system now has to be upgraded. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that that is a gigantic barrier to people doing this, and potentially becomes an issue with the Board of Health.
Exactly.
Because that ADU cannot tie in town sewer, even if it's available, if the home is on septic, because the property has to be one or the other. So
that's correct.
Just bringing those up as clarifiers so that people understand that those are additional complexities by, not just by state law, but the bylaw that Franklin adopted a number of years ago about you have to be either all septic or all sewer, could have some implications with ADUs.
Thank you, Councilor
Okay, thank you.
Cormier-Ledger. Councilor Chandler.
Last point, this might change my mind. If we did by right, I know we're not going to, but would that allow mobile homes and trailers? Because that makes a big difference to me. But that's not, I mean, I thought these were just attached to the home.
Currently, there is no definition that either allows or disallows mobile homes.
Yeah, regardless.
Okay, so anybody, excuse me, through you, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. So anybody could throw a mobile home in their backyard right now by right?
Not now, not until the bylaw is weeded out here. Right now, we have a separate bylaw that I know Brian's gonna take care of, but it also reads that only one principal dwelling unit is allowed on a residential lot. So if they were to add that mobile home, that Airstream,
Yeah.
that it would be in violation of zoning and they would have to apply for a variance.
So if I kept going with this by right, they would be able to do something like that? Okay.
That's
so
very
I'm,
possible, yes.
That was very helpful to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've had some very good discussion, and I think unless there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this, okay, I will declare the public hearing on zoning bylaw amendment 23894, 23895R, 23896 closed. Okay, moving on. Next item up is legislation for action. The first one is zoning bylaw amendment 23-894 to amend the Charter 180, Chapter 185, Section 3 of the Code of the Town of Franklin to add accessory dwelling unit, ADU definition, first reading. Clerk will read the
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is zoning bylaw amendment 23-894. Changes to subsection 185-3 definitions, accessory dwelling unit definition, a zoning bylaw to amend the chapter 185, section 3 of the Code of Town of Franklin. Be it enacted by the Franklin Town Council that chapter 185 of the Code of Town of Franklin is hereby amended to section 185-3 definitions by adding the following text. Subsection 185-3 definitions, accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, is a self-contained dwelling unit inclusive of sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities incorporated within a lawful principal single-family or two-family dwelling or within a detached building accessory to and on the same lot and in the same ownership as a lawful principal single-family, two-family dwelling use. The owner of record shall live on the property. The ADU shall maintain two means of egress, either directly from the outside or through an entry hall or corridor shared with the principal dwelling, sufficient to meet the requirements of the state building code. The ADA shall be no smaller than what is allowed by state building code regulations and no larger than 900 square feet or 50% of the principal unit, whichever is less, and shall contain no more than 2 bedrooms. All public utilities shall be shared within the primary residence, and the foregoing zoning bylaw amendment shall take effect in accordance with the Franklin Home Rule Charter and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5.
Move zoning bylaw amendment 23-894 to a second reading.
Second.
motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing,
Just quickly?
Sure. Councilor Hamblin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, I just wanted to remind people, this is what everybody agreed on. This is the thing that everybody said we need to do. These are the steps forward that will lead us to the goal, I think. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Any other councilors?
That was my question, yeah.
Okay. Seeing none, then the vote will come on the motion to move zoning bylaw amendment 23-894 to a second reading. A majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Zoning bylaw amendment 23-895, formerly 23-894, without the R, to amend Chapter 185, Attachment 8, Use Regulations, Schedule Part 7, Accessory Uses of the Franklin Town Code to add accessory dwelling residential units. First reading. Clerk will read the bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is zoning bylaw amendment 23-895R, zoning bylaw to amend the Franklin Town Code at Chapter 185, Attachment 8, Use Regulation Schedule Part 7, Accessory Uses. Be it enacted by the Franklin Town Council that Chapter 185 of the Code of Town of Franklin is hereby amended by either additions or deletions to subsection 185, Attachment 8, Use Regulation Schedule Part 7, Accessory Uses. The changes to 185 Attachment Number 8, Use Regulation Schedule Part 7, is listed under A18, A19, A20, and A21 as accessory dwelling residential units. As listed, they have zones R1, R2, R6, and R7 listed as yes or permitted use. All others up to C1 are by Board of Appeals, business industry, LI, LO, and MBI, which is mixed business industry, is not allowed for accessory dwelling units. There are no changes to the notes, Mr. Chairman. Other than that, hold on one second. The foregoing zoning bylaw amendment shall take effect in accordance with the Franklin Home Rule Charter and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5.
Move zoning bylaw amendment 23-895R to a second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Councilor Sheridan? did you-
Yes, so is this,
I couldn't tell whether your hand was up or not.
is this the amendment one? This is one the planning board had added? No, this is the one we used still, okay.
Jamie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is Councilor Sheridan's correct. This is the one that there's some disagreement on in that. So.
This is the one. Right. This is the amended one. Right. That's what the R is. The
Okay,
amended-
so,
Right.
Yeah, only in the first call.
Right.
But it's the only one that was amended.
okay, just a question. The planning board recommended the amendment, right?
No.
No,
Oh, okay.
they did not.
Well,
Well,
through you, Mr. Chairman, the planning board recommended to amend this
Yeah.
back to
To
the original proposal from the EDC.
sorry.
Right now, it is not amended. This is
Okay.
where the confusion is. The council amended this to refer it to the planning board.
Now it's back to us.
And the planning board is suggesting that you amend this back to the original proposal.
so
In
we
other
have-
wored, in that first column, you would change Y to BA.
Someone has to make the amendment.
Someone has to make that amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Oh, it's good. It's okay.
Any questions or comments?
No trailer parks.
So, excuse me.
Yeah.
So a no vote means it goes away and we have to amend it, and a yes vote means it's no.
You could amend it right now, if you wanted to,
Okay.
or it gets voted on as is, and if it failed, it would go back.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, can I?
Go ahead, I was
would like
gonna
to
do
make
it.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to follow the planning board's recommendations to amend R1, R2, R6,
Yep.
and R7 back to
original
the original recommendation from the EDC plus steering committee to change the Y to a BA.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Thank you. I was gonna
Discussion.
do that, Melody. I was trying to do that, but you got it.
Okay, discussion? Councilor Frangillo?
Sounds like we're going that direction, and I apologize for sounding exasperated. We have a pressing need to provide housing options. We know that a major reason, if not the major reason, why we have built fewer homes than we have created new people is because we've created an environment where people are no longer allowed to do what they want with their property, and they need to go in front of a jury of their peers for every single step of the way. That's the biggest reason why we have not produced enough housing units. This is a small option to create specifically tailored housing units for people like myself. I live in an accessory dwelling unit, and it's the only reason I'm able to afford to live in Franklin, as well as people who want to make homes for their parents and grandparents. This is a small way to say, in one small area, can we test what it looks like to not need permission from your peers to create that within the already accepted footprint of what's allowed in that space. And we're not able to agree to that if we vote this down. It
Thank
just
you.
seems hard to say that you're interested, truly interested, in creating affordable units here in Franklin, and interested in finding new revenue if we're not able to make this step. I'd be disappointed if we're not able to even allow it by right in the rural residential.
Thank you.
I will be voting against the amendment because by definition, like for example, Cook Farm, it wouldn't, everybody's not gonna do that. And if everybody did, they'd all be happy because they all want it. So in close neighborhoods, if close neighborhoods where everybody lives close together, not everybody's gonna do it. So, and if everybody did do it, they'd be fine because they all want it.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to say.
We're speaking to the amendment.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Councilor Chandler.
To this amendment, from all the things that people have said, I was against all this at the beginning, but people have made some very good points, and I just want to express that I think it needs to, some things need to be looked at, and we can change it going forward, which I wasn't giving in on, but that's where I've been moved to that point.
Thank you.
And I would support this. Thank you.
Any other? Seeing none, the vote will come on the amendment, which is to revert back to the
Original language.
The original.
BA.
BA in the first call.
BA and A21 for residential, one residential.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Now we vote to move it.
Now we vote to move it
To a second reading,
to a second reading
as amended.
As amended.
as amended.
Yes, we move zoning bylaw amendment 23-895R to a,
As further amended.
as further amended to a second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Zoning bylaw amendment 23-896 to amend Chapter 185, Section 19 of the Code of the Town of Franklin to add on accessory dwelling unit setbacks. First reading. Clerk will read the bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is zoning bylaw amendment 23-896, change subsection 185-19, accessory buildings and structures, accessory dwelling unit setbacks. Zoning bylaw to amend chapter 185, section 19 of the Code of the Town of Franklin. Be it enacted by the Franklin Town Council that section 185 of the Code of the Town of Franklin is hereby amended at subsection 185-19, accessory buildings and structures by adding the following text. Subsection 185-19, accessory buildings and structures, A, purpose.
B6 is the only change.
Oh, okay, I could read the whole thing. I'm bored over here.
Just read the change.
Then I will read the changes. 185-19 accessory buildings, this is B6. Accessory dwelling units within a detached building shall be located no closer to rear or side lot lines than stated in subsection 185-19B, 1 through 5 above, or as stated in subsection attachment 9, schedule of lot area, frontage, yard, and height requirements, whichever is greater. The foregoing zoning bylaw amendment shall take effect in accordance with the Franklin Home Rule Charter and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5.
Move zoning bylaw amendment 23-896 to a second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Everybody agrees on this one?
Yeah.
Thought Mel was.
Okay, I couldn't
I was
tell.
like, sorry, Mel, I was looking at you because you said it earlier.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Resolution 23-39, FY 2024 Budget Adjustment. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 23-39, FY 2024 Budget Adjustments. Appropriation. General funds appropriation and transfers for fiscal year '24. The purpose is to raise and appropriate or transfer from existing appropriations in the fiscal year '24 as follows. Transfer from department number not applicable, raise and appropriate $177,052. Department 111 expenses from the town council, $2,000. From Department 123 expenses for the town administrator, $6,000. For Department 192 expenses from facilities, $125,000. From Department 210 expenses for the police, $41,600. From Department 220 expenses, fire department, $75,000. From Department 225 expenses, regional dispatch, $250,000. From Department 422 expenses, the DPW snow and ice, $50,000. From Department 422 expenses, DPW street lighting, $10,000, for a total of $736,652. Transfer to Department Type 300 expenses, Franklin Public Schools, the amount $736,652. Motion be it moved and voted by the town council and raise, appropriate, and transfer $736,652 from the sources and to the uses as described above in fiscal year '24. This resolution shall become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution 23-39.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion, Jamie.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, so as outlined, over the last month, the Finance Committee hearings, as well as the Town Council hearings, the staff and I have been working to try to get the school department increase for the year, obviously up to that 2.5% increase. The proposal before you tonight will shift $736,652 from cutting a little bit in the town council budget, the town administrator budget, the facilities budget, the police budget, the fire budget, the regional dispatch budget, the DPW snow and ice budget, and a modest decrease in the DPW street lighting budget. I want to thank wholeheartedly Chief Lynch, Chief McLaughlin, the DPW director. Mr. D'Angelo was unavailable tonight. It was a personal thing. I know he would have been here. I want to thank them for attending tonight's meeting, listening to the ADU debate, which I'm sure they all found fascinating. Maybe Chief Lynch will build an ADU, and now he knows all the rules. But in all seriousness, I just want to go back really quickly. So this is the proposal before the council tonight. Straight up, the next two votes, this vote and the next vote, will shift $736,000 and change to the school department, which will bring their increase almost just to basically their budget for next year will be just a hair under $72 million. That does not include the revolving funds that they use and that increase their budget in other ways. This is not grants or anything else. Their budget's larger than that. It's just the contribution from the town. And I just want to thank the other staff. And I just have to say that in hearing Councilor Cormier-Ledger's statement at the end of last meeting, and being someone who was raised Catholic, it feels like 2 weeks after Christmas. I know there's a handful of folks that are going to speak passionately and well, and will hopefully be very happy on Zoom to this to this shift. A lot of you have received emails, I've received emails. This should make a lot of people happy to address the issues that were brought up. But I have to say it again, as the town administrator, I've been raising the flag on the cautionary tale and the red flag on this issue for years. And I'm sorry, and I really do mean it. I apologize. I have to say it every meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jamie. Questions from the council? Councilor Cormier-Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the town administrator, Jamie, can we just get a little bit, since the budget process was so lengthy and in-depth, I understand the 177 from the state, and I understand we're gonna move dispatch money from our stabilization account, but truly taking money away from police and fire, what impact does that have on them?
That's a great question. So right now, this will not have any impact on the gear that police and fire need for this year. The capital subcommittee has already appropriated the funds, and I believe the orders have already been made via the capital accounts for the turnout gear and the tasers and the other items in this. So it is not going to have an impact necessarily on their ability to get that gear. But I think as we went through in the budget process as well as the capital process, we're trying to continually inch forward, and we have up until about this year, to try to get some of these annual expenditures that are not one time, they are systemically every year, into the operating budget. So the only impact, Councilor Cormier-Ledger, is not going to be on public safety, for sure. But you'll see these requests again next year in the capital program, and the year after, and just continue on until we can find the operating budget capacity to fund these reoccurring items.
So this doesn't affect any of their personnel requests?
It does not.
This was simply moving equipment that we had hoped to get out of capital and put it into operating?
That's correct.
And I guess my final question then, I know we have very little say and control over where money is spent on the school side. So I just want to make sure the public understands when $736,652 goes over to the school department, that is not a guarantee that the school department is going to use that money for music programs or the things that were outlined as concerns. That is 100% still up to the discretion of the school committee. We cannot put a caveat on that money and say only spend it here. We are giving them additional money to work with, but it's still up to them on how to spend it.
That is 100% correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jamie. I think it was an excellent job. This was a very tough budget season. And in the end, I think everyone's psyched that we were able to find some money, give some money. And honestly, I look forward to hearing some of the jobs and activities that'll be saved by this money.
Yeah, me too.
It'll really, I think people will feel good.
Me too.
So I can't wait to hear some of that. We'll be watching their meeting. They're watching ours. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Any other councilors? Yeah. Councilor Pellegrini. Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ted, you were in my head. Those were my exact things that I was going to ask, and I'm sure some of these other people, the same thing. What bothers me mostly is that we don't have the right to say what this money to be used for. I mean, we've all got all these texts and emails and everything else asking us to do something. I wish people would understand we cannot do anything except we're giving this extra money, and it is extra money to the school department. And we can only hope that they will use this the way that the parents of these students would like it to be used. So my recommendation is going to be for the parents to go to the school committee meetings and push for exactly what they want, exactly what they've been telling us through these texts, that they've got to go to them and not to us. If it was up to me, I would say music and art and counseling and all of that. Of course I would. But we just don't, and myself, but I'll speak for everybody, we don't have the right to do that. But let's get something these parents together to the school department. And lastly, I want to thank the department heads. This is quite a bit of money that we're taking from them. And I think that that's really good of you. It's better than good of you to have been able to put this money up and give it to the school department, especially since things that happened last year. You know, I think it shows that we don't hold grudges. We're out here for the students. The students are our number one responsibility, and we want to do everything we possibly can for them. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope that the school department, the school committee rather, and the superintendent work together to get the students exactly what they need with this extra money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stand for a second. Thank you. I think what this shows is that this is the council. These are all these departments showing, you know, in good faith that we have their interest at heart. We really do. We have everyone's interest at heart. But what I see when I look at this is that the community as a whole, and I'm talking about the different departments that have contributed to this amount, are they themselves also sharing in good faith that they have an interest in helping out the schools with their fiduciary issues that they have. And yes, Councilor Cormier Ledger, Debbie, you guys are right. We don't technically have any control over what the schools do with this money when we forward this to their account. But I can say that as a taxpayer and as a person who's just as much as a taxpayer as anyone else in this room, we have a right to express to the school committee and to the school department where we would like this money to be appropriated to. And I'm going to sit here right now, not only as a dad who's got children in arts and culture, in theater, and in chorus, right now to say, school department, school committee, I would like you to put this money towards what the wishes of the community are. Arts, as Debbie so eloquently put it, arts, culture, and return some of those teachers back to their positions so that we can give the kids back what they've lost, and they're so heartbroken to have lost. This is, I know this is technically speaking from the budget issue, this is actually, it's a fair amount of money. It's not exactly everything that the schools need, but we also have to remember at the end of the day, one of the things that came out of this fiscal year budget were requests from the police department for additional officers and from the fire department for 2 additional paramedics to try to offset their shifts because they themselves have ever-increasing needs. But here I see them listed on here as one of the contributors to the school department. That is a testament in and of itself, Mr. Chairman. And I thank everybody on the council for approving this and moving this on to the school committee and the school department. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We haven't quite approved
We
it
will.
yet.
I have full faith.
Councilor Frondillo, and then I'll...
Sure, yeah, thank you. I echo what everyone's said. This was it's a very difficult job to balance all of the priorities of the community, particularly, and I'll go back to what I said in the budget, when the pot isn't big enough to fund the services that we enjoy. The only way that I would like to differ, than some of the sentiments expressed, is I in no way expect the parents to be happy or psyched. We're still $1.5 million short of what they put a lot of thought into establishing as the needs of the school. There were 30 positions that were going to get cut. I think, according to yesterday, this is going to save 8 of those. That's still 22. We're trying to get a better school. We're still going to have to reduce 22 teachers. So I just want to make sure that we're framing this appropriately. As again, the pot isn't big enough to afford the services that we all want to enjoy. Whether it be $1.5 million more for schools, or 4 more officers, or another ambulance, or tens of millions of dollars more in road and infrastructure work. We're still heading the wrong direction, and I think it's time that we, as a town, make some difficult decisions to move in the right direction. Thank you.
Councilor Hamblin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question. I really just wanted to thank the town administrator and all of the department heads out there for working on this. It's obvious to me you've listened to the community, and we're all pitching in. And I think that's the win here tonight. You're right, we don't have, our pot isn't big enough, but we're doing what we can right today to make it a little bit better in the schools. And I think it should mean a lot to people, and it means a great deal to me. And I want to thank all the department heads for doing all this work. And I'm sure the town staff, and the treasurer had a lot of work to do. I know that she's not here tonight. She's probably sleeping finally sleeping. So thank you, Carrie. And I think we should be proud of the fact that we're all willing to do this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Sheridan?
Yeah, I would like to expect to have great confidence in the school committee, and the superintendent will use this to the best resources. But something to keep in mind, 22 teachers is a lot, and nobody likes theater getting cut or freshman football. But it's the most direct contact with a student is the classroom teacher. And I can tell you from experience that there's a big difference from having 25 kids in a class, or 20 kids in a class, or 30 kids in a class for classroom management, the type of activities you can do. So 22 teachers cut is a lot.
Thank you, Councilor Sheridan. Okay, and I echo all my fellow councilors' comments. And I just, to a point, just want to emphasize, there were 9 departments that made contributions to this $736,000. That's 9 different departments that gave within the community to put together Jamie's Plan B, which he had from the very beginning. But there were things that had to fall into place before we could go there. One of them is the next vote that we're making. And until all of that came in play, we weren't sure what that number could be. I think this gets the schools to the similar number that they've been given over the last half a dozen years. As far as the increase goes, is it everything? No, it's not everything. But and I know Councilor Pellegrini addressed it very eloquently, to all of the parents out there, you need to clearly understand the emails that you're sending us. Yes, we have control of the bottom line only. We don't control how they spend their money. That is 100% the school committee's decision and school administration's decision. If there's a particular teacher or a particular program that you feel strongly about and want to fight about, the fight shouldn't be here with the council. The argument is really with the school committee. And explain to them why a music teacher or an art teacher or a history teacher or a math teacher shouldn't be cut. But it really is their purview. All we do is control the bottom line, in which you see we are adjusting this evening to the tune of another $736,000. So with that, I know Marcy DiChiara has been on all evening. She wanted to speak during councilor comments, and I shut her off. I'm hoping that Marcy will forgive me. But Marcy, if you'd like to make a comment or statement now, please. Just unmute yourself and please share with us.
Hi everyone. Oh man, put me on the spot here. I've been listening all evening, so it's been very enlightening, and I've learned a lot about many things, including zoning and
everything you ever wanted to know about zoning.
Everything I've ever wanted to know. So, I just have well, first of all, this hasn't officially been passed yet, correct? That will be
No,
the
we're
next
still in
step.
discussion. We're still in
Right,
discussion.
okay. So this 730,
$6,000,
whatever, odd number of
yeah.
dollars. Okay. So this is funding that is basically shifting from other departments to the school, which is wonderful and great, and I do not want to come across as seemingly not grateful for everybody's collaborative efforts to sort of pool their funding to help the schools. But I worry a little bit about the narrative that, you know, the school is this big burden and that we're taking away from all of these other very deserving organizations to fund the things that are important to us, at the same time taking away things that are probably important to other people who maybe don't have kids in public schools or what have you. So I'm a little nervous about that narrative. It sort of kind of, in my mind, a little bit vilifies like the schools, right? Like we're taking, and we're taking away from all of these other very deserving departments, and they're willingly giving it to us. But are you at all concerned about that? And my other concern is this seems to be like a temporary fix, like I'm sorry about my dog, a quick like Band-Aid kind of situation. But like, I guess what I'm really asking is, how can we develop a long-term strategy? How can we promote like civil conversations and bring the community together to understand really how all of this works? Because my experience has been, oh my God, how could this happen? What can we do? What can we do? That's the narrative you're probably getting to by way of emails and letters and maybe some angry language. But I would like to move from what can we do to here's how we can all take action and help our town council solve the much larger issue, which is a budget crisis that is not really new to anyone, right? So we kind of all have known that we've sort of been standing on this fiscal cliff, but how are we gonna bridge that gap of information and knowledge? How can we empower parents like myself who are writing emails and you know, writing to you and other members of council and probably to Jamie? We understand that you don't determine how the funds are spent, but it kind of starts with you. So we want to be on that ground floor with you so that we can understand, trust this process, trust the data, trust the inarguable statistics, and have a detailed and outlined course of action. And I guess I'm just not sure how that's gonna happen beyond this fix. What is the long-term goal? What are the literal check boxes that we have to do together as a community and as concerned parents? And how can we, as parents, help ourselves facilitate our desired goals and exercise, you know, our duties to actively participate in the betterment of our, I guess, academic community?
Thank you, Marcy. There's a lot in there.
I know, I'm sorry.
That's
I've been
quite
waiting all
all
night to say it.
and that's why I didn't stop you. I let you go. Just so that you understand, during the budget process and during the public hearings on the budget, we spent a lot of time talking about this and talking about how we move forward. The key word that we have to keep in our minds, especially as a council, as we look at different budgets, is sustainability. Being able to sustain what we have. And if there's one word I would ask you to remember as we move forward, it would be just that. How do we sustain the services we're currently providing when inflation is growing at 6 or 8% a year, and we can increase taxes by 2.5%. To Councilor Frangillo's point, the pot isn't big enough.
Right.
And what we spoke about during the budget process is getting together and looking at a forecast and putting projections together and look out, not just this year or next year, but looking out 3 to 5 years, and what do we need to do to be able to sustain the services that are currently being provided by the community. And the start of that is looking for forecasts from the school committee, which is where it starts, then coming to the town administration and combining those forecasts and putting together a meeting where getting the joint budget subcommittee back together again. In fact, today, I think we just decided on a meeting that we all could make. And the joint budget subcommittee, Marcy, is made up of the budget subcommittee of the town council, the budget subcommittee of the school committee, and 3 or 4 members of the finance committee, which that's their whole job, is dealing with the budget. So that group of people will be meeting on July 26th here at Town Hall. Please come, bring your friends, bring your parents. And
Thank you. That was my next question about that subcommittee and whether or not it was going to be formed.
Yeah, it's a public hearing, Marcy, so anybody is welcome. It'll probably, I'm not sure where it'll be held, whether it'll be in council chambers or whether it'll be in the training room, but it will be publicized. You'll be able to find it on the website. You'll be able to find it on the postings down in the town clerk's office. But that's the beginning of the process, okay? The forecasts need to be done. The school committee, the town administration need to do that. Then the joint budget subcommittee will review it, talk through it, work together. We are, I know, we are one town. We are one Franklin. We are one community. And we need to work together as a community, and I think that's what you saw tonight. I don't think it's any, there's not a counselor here that feels the school is a burden.
No.
And I hate that when people say that, because we don't feel that. We need to, or that they're a villain. They're not. What we're looking at is trying to take care of the entire community the best way possible, by making the best budget decisions we can. And we did that in the end of May when we voted the budget, knowing that we had a plan B to appropriate more money to the schools. And there were, as I said, a few things that had to happen. Those fell into place. We're able to do that tonight. So within 2 weeks of our prior meeting, the schools have another $736,000. And we did make the school committee, and we made the public aware that we did have a plan B, but we had to work through some issues before we could get there. We were able to get there faster than we originally thought, which allowed us to do it at this meeting rather than a later meeting, to give the schools as much time as we possibly could to best utilize those additional dollars. Now I went a little too long, Marcy. But I think the town administrators wants to add a couple of things.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really quickly, I can't agree with Councilor Mercer more, and I think I have never heard anyone say that the schools are a burden. I think this is, and I agree with you, Marcy. By the way, nobody in this room said that. There were other people that feel like it's a burden at the budget hearing, right? And so, that's not coming from this body. I'm sure out on Facebook or wherever it's probably going off in the different directions, but You heard it here right on the record. You know, every single department head that is employed by the town of Franklin, if not every employee, every counselor, every elected official on every board, is an advocate for the school district.
Yes, absolutely.
They are our number one priority. There is no question about any of this. But I would encourage you, Marcy, on a couple things. One, you're correct also, it is a Band-Aid. There's no question, again, this is a Band-Aid. The community, I know I say it a lot, and you'll hear me say it 100,000 more times, the community has got to begin to make sacrifices to their own personal lives. The school committee and the school community has got to sacrifice other issues, because ultimately the only way out of this is to either raise I outlined this at the finance committee meetings, is either to raise property taxes or revise the service delivery, which means looking at what the school department provides and saying, can we offer that? Do we need to offer that? And maybe we cannot afford to offer that. Because Kobe Frangillo is right. I can already tell you the forecast. There won't be enough in the pot next year, and there won't be enough in the pot the year after, and the pot will be smaller in 28, and it'll be smaller in 29. If you have any time, Marcy, or any of your friends, or any of the other people that are on Zoom tonight who I'm pleading with to get engaged, I want you here. I don't want people not to show up. I want a lot of people here. I want, you know, a lot of people to be engaged, because this is a huge, huge learning curve for the community, an enormous one. There are so many aspects of this that are interrelated, and it is going to take everybody to engage. If you have 9 hours, which I know you don't, but it's going to take parents and others watching all of the finance committee hearings. It is going to take hours to watch the YouTube videos, to read through the slideshows that I've done and the finance committee have done and departments have done and everyone, and understand the issues, not just for the schools, but across the board. I think all of our departments and everyone have made great arguments, but I plead with everybody, because I can tell you for sure, summer's coming, people are going away. We're going to lose 3 or 4 months. The fall's going to be here before you know it, and everybody's going to be busier than they've ever been before. And we're going to be starting a budget process next November, December, and everyone's going to wonder, what's going on?
Exactly.
And we're going to be right back to where we are this year if this community does not step up and show up. No one's here. It's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. So we need people to get engaged. We need people to read the slides. We need people to watch the meetings. And unfortunately, that is going to require a lot of people to sacrifice a lot, because the learning curve on these issues, I can guarantee you, all of you know this, are extraordinarily steep. So there's a budget webpage, franklinma.gov, Marcy and all the other parents, franklinma.gov. There's a town budget page. You can read the FY24 materials. All the presentations are there. The links are there. If your summer homework would be, is to maybe just look through some of that, look through some of the YouTube clips, look through some of the meetings, and see where the financial pressures are, because we will certainly be back here next year with a much, much more challenging budget year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Marcy, are you all set?
I think she's...
Yeah,
For
I'm
now,
marinating in all of this,
anyway, right?
But I am here, right?
Okay.
So like, I am here because I do have an emotional interest in this. I have
Absolutely.
fiscal interest in this. So I am willing to put in the time and to educate myself and put in the work. And I think a lot of parents are. And so it's just a matter of how can we take that information, mobilize, and get our points across, and align ourselves with you guys so that we're all on the same page and we have a basic, ground level understanding of what is going on. Because at this point, it doesn't seem like there's a long-term finalized plan. I realize it's probably because it's so complicated and complex and it takes time. But I just wanted you to know that I care. I know a lot of people care, and that we are willing to do what it takes, even if it means showing up, and even if it means, putting some summer hours in. I think we can all agree it's worth the effort. And And I will be there on June
And it
26th.
absolutely is, and Marcy, music to my ears. And I know I see you quite frequently, so we can talk offline as well. Any questions, you know how to find me.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. Dave McNeil, who is the chair of the Budget Subcommittee of the School Committee, had his hand up. Dave, you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Mercer. I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to the rest of the town council members for considering this. It is greatly appreciated. I also like to extend my thanks to the other department heads for the sacrifice that they made to put this together. We certainly do appreciate the spirit of collaboration that this was done in, and as was mentioned, this will go towards being able to save some of the positions that otherwise would have been cut, as well as go towards saving some of the programs of interest. We appreciate your responsiveness to the community members that expressed their interests and concerns at the budget hearings over the past couple weeks. But, you know, and it has also been stated tonight, this certainly isn't a complete fix, and there are larger financial and funding issues and bigger picture that not only affects the schools, but all town departments, as has been alluded to. And as you mentioned, I look forward to being a part of that discussion, as well as the rest of the members of the school committee being a part of that discussion at the joint budget committee meetings coming up. So once again, thank you to the other department heads, and look forward to the work we have in front of us.
Thank you, Dave. Heather, just name and address, please.
Sure. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
So just Heather Sansucci, I'm in Dartmouth Road, 1 Dartmouth Road. I was going to ask a lot of the same stuff Marcy asked. Actually, I was really interested in hearing about the joint budget committee meeting that you guys had mentioned during the other budget meetings, but we've got that answer. So while I do think it's appropriate to thank the other departments for finding this money, I also wonder why it wasn't brought up in the caveat that we need a few things to fall into place, but we have possibly 750 grand coming your way. I think that would have alleviated a lot of stress and maybe a lot of time spent in some of these 2 night-long budget meetings. It's just something to note and just a comment, because I think a lot of people in the community, educators live here, etc., who've lost their jobs, they kind of do have that feeling. You know, you hear it all the time that it's a us versus them. And while I understand and appreciate that the town council is not able to state where the money can be allocated, you do have the overall authority to allocate money all over town. So now knowing just a few weeks later that 736,000 was found, it's kind of makes you scratch your head and say, didn't you know about it 3 weeks ago or whatever? But I mean, I understand accounting's not always that straightforward. So those are just some of my thoughts, but ultimately, just to address Jamie, I actually had the opportunity to speak with a parent who has not attended any meetings at all, and just heard about the music cuts at the concert last night and was rather upset. So I said, hey, give me a call and I'll talk to you. And I spent about 25 minutes and summarized the exact position that we're in right now to him. He understands it clearly and he's ready to get on board to move forward. So my question and thoughts, as you were saying that you need more community members there, I see there's 18 participants online. I don't know how many are in chambers. What's the plan to get the marketing out to the community that there is a budget crisis? I mean, there was a mailer done for the sewer, etc. Could there be a mailer done for something like this? Is it worth that to get more people involved? We don't really read newspapers anymore, so nobody really has the information unless they're kind of looking for it these days. So I just...
Heather, we can answer those questions, and Jamie and I are fighting over who's going to answer it, but I'll let Jamie take this one.
Very good. Heather, you and I know each other pretty well, so I hope you take all of this the right way, right? And I want to thank you for showing up at several other meetings I've seen you at with the New Franklin residents, and you've been supportive and understanding about the sewer interceptor and all these other things. So I consider you to be a very engaged citizen. So the $750,000, when you said, why didn't somebody figure this out a few weeks ago? I actually did. And I presented all of this at the Finance Committee meetings the week of May 8th, 9th, and 11th. I think the dates were 9th, 10th, and 11th. And I gave two slideshows at that. The Chief of Police gave an excellent slideshow as well, and the Superintendent gave a great slideshow. And so I did actually outline this. I think the reason why parents and other people came into the room was because they heard of layoffs. Otherwise, if there was not the music cuts this year, I don't think we would have seen anybody come to any of these meetings. And as all of the counselors know, and as all the departments know, and Heather, I do count you as one who's known this, I think, for a long time, because you've been pretty engaged. This is really Groundhog Day. I mean, the only dynamic this year that was a little different was inflation. But it's been Groundhog Day. It's going to be Groundhog Day next year, too, and it'll be Groundhog Day the year after that. The pot is not big enough, to Councilor Frangilla's point. Otherwise, Heather, what you do get is when you have a limited pot, you have a high competition for those dollars. And what happens is it does become an us versus them. And when you have an us versus them environment, you become a much more challenging environment at which how to solve the problem. And that's why earlier I made those comments about engagement, because it is awfully clear to me that a lot of people didn't watch the Finance Committee meetings, were not aware of what the content was that's out there. And I understand everybody's busy. We're all overextended, and that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for the community in the next year, is how do you sacrifice parts of your personal life, your weekends, your weeknights, the stress of reading things late at night and educating everybody on where those points are in the budget that are pressure points. In fact, the last night of the Finance Committee meeting, I literally laid out the Plan B on a slide on May 10th and said, if the FinCom votes this budget, I will take this Plan B to the council. And then I had that same presentation, I think, at the council. So we've been out there talking about this. I think it was just the music cuts that finally got people's attention to really tune in at a much higher level. And I think we're at the beginning of this, Heather. We are going to get around this. It is going to take a lot of elbow grease, a lot of hours, a lot of late nights, and a lot of weekends. But I know Franklin will come together over the course of the year. And I know that there are some people that you're probably familiar with too. I think, Mr. Chairman, you're more familiar with this than I am, but I think there are some folks in the community trying to begin, this may be a good baton handoff, but so we're two, maybe you could address that part, Mr. Chairman?
There are a few people, I've spoken with a few of them that are putting a group together to try and mobilize a little bit of the community and inform the community as to what's going on and what the process is, how we move forward, why we need the different steps to move forward, developing the forecast, then looking at the forecast out 3 to 5 years for the schools as well as for the town. So there's a process we need to go through. The town administrator did a great job with the slides of putting those out there, and we're in the process of starting that process right now. The forecasts are being worked on. We have the joint budget subcommittee meeting date, and we will build from there. But if you want to give me a call offline, Heather, I'll be more than happy to put you in contact with a few of the other parents and residents that are interested in helping us to inform the community the budget constraints that we're under and we're going to continue to be under over the next few years.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty.
I'm
tightly
pretty
connected
sure
to those
you,
people
I'm pretty
you're-
sure you know who they are, so.
Yeah, very well. I guess I was just kind of wondering if there would be anything coming directly from the town council or town administrator, because while a citizens group is nice, sometimes the leadership is where you hear it the loudest.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's a great question, Heather. I'm sorry I didn't address that before. The town staff, including the school staff that are paid and using town resources, the town is prohibited from doing any type of mailer on that. And I think this is, Heather, actually one of the reasons why this has been so challenging for the community for so long, is it takes citizens, they have to go out and do this. It cannot be.
Well, what about just more marketing these meetings? The town council meetings?
Oh, well, there's an email subscription list that you can get all the agendas to your inbox.
Yeah.
Social media, we post all the agenda.
Something that people know in the community about that. I mean, people who aren't, you have to go to franklinmass.gov in order to sign up. So is there a way to
We have
get the
we have
mailers?
5,000 or 6,000 subscribers to it. Like, this is part of it, Heather. I'm sorry. Like I can only do so much to, this is actually part of the rub, is that like citizens keep coming back to me and say, do everything for us. Why don't you just tell us what it is?
I get it.
And so Heather, at some point, it's a two-way street, to be totally blunt. Like, people have to tune in. And they can't then just say, why didn't you, Gus, the building, if you've been listening to the building commissioner earlier, he nailed it, right? Everyone shows up at our door at the 15th hour and says, why didn't you tell me about this? I mean, people have to, if the school budget is this important to folks, you've got to sacrifice time to look around, make a phone call. Heather, I've emailed you a bunch of times. We're very
this isn't a
available.
personal thing,
How
Jamie.
do we stay engaged? Sign up for the email list. Get onto social media. We have a town blog. The school committee has an email list. There are multiple ways. And we agree with you. People don't read newspapers. We don't do anything in newspapers anymore.
Yeah.
No.
It's all electronic. Franklin Matters. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jamie.
So
Heather,
I
I think
appreciate your
you,
response, that it wasn't anything.
I think you understand, Heather, that what we're doing here is we're trying to educate the community. We all talk about education. We don't only have to educate the students. We have to educate the parents.
Right.
As to what the needs are and what are the things we need to deal with as far as the budget constraints go. So all I can say, because I want to cut this off, we've been at this a long time, get engaged, come to the joint budget subcommittee, get together with your peers. If you'd like me or any other counselor to come, I'm sure we're a phone call away. We'll be more than happy to come, meet with parents, talk through the processes as we move forward and how we see things moving forward.
Thank you. I hope you know that this wasn't a
Oh,
personal.
no, totally.
Anything. I attend, I call, I email, and you guys all respond. But my point is for the 15th hour people,
Yeah.
how do you, what's a strategy for that? But it's
And
good to
that's
hear your
something we can
opinions
talk
and
about,
your feelings.
and that's something we should be talking about offline at these committee meetings, as to how do we get to them. So, and I have many ideas, and I'll be happy to share them with the group. Thank you, Heather. Steve, very quickly.
Thank you.
Steve Sherlock, 10 Lawrence Drive, Community Information Director, Franklin Matters, Franklin Public Radio. 3 quick points, very quick. One, the school committee budget subcommittee met on Monday night. The recording is available so people can find out what the preview of, because they anticipated coming out of the council meeting what was going to happen. So that'll come out in the final details on the school committee meeting next week. 2, of the 22 teachers that were cut, as I understand it from that meeting, and you'll be able to hear to it yourself, some number of those, and I think it was upwards of 16, so check me on that, were going to be cut anyway because of the declining enrollment.
Oh, okay.
Keep that in mind. We still have declining enrollment. teachers were going to get cut anyway. So check on the number. Yes, they did. They were able to save 8 from 30 to 22, but some number that 22 were going to go anyway. That was already built into the budget beforehand. Third, to get informed, other than through the town newsletters, you should be following Franklin Matters. That's where all the recordings are. That's where all the notes are. That's where the archive, because parents, I started this in 2006 for the same reason you're waking up now to it. And I'm still here doing this for that reason, because people need to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay,
Feels like the East Division.
we have a motion on the floor
We gotta
with
vote.
a second. And it's time to vote. The vote will come on the motion to move on Resolution 23-39. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-40. And the MEC stabilization account transfer to MEC appropriation FY24. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-40, appropriation, MEC stabilization account transfer to MEC appropriation fiscal year '24. Total amount, $250,000. Purpose, to transfer from MEC stabilization fund to general fund in fiscal year '24. Transfer to the MEC general fund appropriation. Reason, to fully fund the FY24 appropriation. Source, MEC stabilization fund. Total amount, $250,000. Motion. Be it moved and voted by the town council that the sum of $250,000 be transferred from the MEC stabilization fund to MEC general fund appropriations in fiscal year '24. This resolution should become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution 23-40.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Jamie, all set? Any questions from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. This is a 2/3 majority vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Town administrators report.
Mr. Chairman, I only have one thing. Tonight, in an uplifting several moments, I just want to acknowledge the incredible event by Amy Adams tonight down at the Sculpture Park. The RJ kids, just an incredible job. The Sculpture Park is now revamped, it's cleaned out. It's now available and publicly available for folks to apply to install sculptures and art down there. And just seeing the elementary school class and the kids was something that I think always improves all of our moods, because you see the impact they're having. And by the way, the fish that they did down there are really gorgeous. So everybody should go take a walk around the Sculpture Park. And I just want to also compliment Ryan Jetty for another great event last week with the Nason Street Tot Lot opening. Again, seeing kids just running around and seeing that video of Sophia and the kids being able to get up on those equipment down there. Again, great things are happening. And finally, I just want to thank the 4-H Alarm Robotics FRC team, our folks who rent the Red Brick Schoolhouse, sent a personal note with all their signatures, thanking myself as well as the staff and all of you, and how grateful they are. Handwritten note and a card. I know. Just thanking all of us for the joy, with a beautiful picture of their team on the front. If Chris can zoom in, of their team building great things down in the Brick Schoolhouse. And it's just, I think those things tonight
Hold it up again.
remind me a lot. Thanks, Chris. Just, I don't know, 3 things that in the middle of all this debate are another side, another reminder of actually how positive and heartwarming and thankful and gracious and positive and enriching a lot of the stuff that we do are doing. So I just wanted to leave on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, subcommittee reports. EDC, I know they met.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
Chairman.
Hammond.
Yes, the Economic Development Subcommittee met tonight before the full council meeting. There's just some really excellent news to give to people about the New Style property. We had an update today from Brian Taverner, and he got a $500,000 grant to clean it up. And so it's gonna take 3 to 4 years, but we will actually have a cleaned up property at the end of that, and I think that deserves a little snap. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm sure he's sleeping, or I don't know. We also talked about GR5 zoning, something that, impervious coverage amendment that will come before the council, and also a cannabis overlay, district house cleaning sort of thing that we worked on, and that will come before the council as well. But I mean, it's really awesome that Brian never gave up, and he kept working towards that, and it won't be a liability anymore. Right?
Absolutely.
Yay!
Absolutely.
That is so big.
We just have,
And our next meeting will be
as cleaned up
June-
as it can possibly get.
Right.
I just want to
Can't possibly
clarify
get-
that, 'cause-
Yeah, nobody's gonna be drinking the water.
No.
But, and then our next meeting will be June 21st. Is that correct, Jamie? I think we already
Yes.
decided, yes?
Yes.
Thank you,
So we're on a roll again.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Frangillo Gatra, anything?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay, future agenda items. Councilor Sheridan,
Could we look into the generator, missing generator?
we did address that.
Okay.
Ways back.
Facilities Director, 6 months ago, when it was first asked of me by
Okay.
Mr. Ciccone, was addressed at a council meeting by the Facilities Director. It was, we were not able to use it at any of our facilities, so it went and was sold.
Okay.
And we got money that came back to the town coffers for it. I can't tell you what the number was. I don't know. Jamie, did I misspeak?
100% accurate.
Yeah.
How do we find out how much?
Yeah, we can get that offline for you. Okay, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Councilor Frangillo,
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Hamblin,
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we please just put the flag use ad hoc subcommittee on a future, just on the radar? We did talk about that being its own committee. Thank you.
Councilor Chandler,
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Pellegrini,
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Jones.
No, sir.
Councilor DeLarco. Councilor comments, Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been quite a night. And first off, thank you to everybody that came to the live meetings, that sent texts, that called, that stopped us at Stop and Shop, the engagement was great. I hope that level continues. I hope you take the point tonight that we need everybody to be involved and be informed and be educated, and to help us through these tough discussions. I want to say thank you and good luck to that great group of kids from Electric Youth. It's always such a wonderful way to start off a meeting. But I did unfortunately have to talk a little bit tonight, and I know we're running late, but just about some growing concerns. So it's June, it's our Pride Month for people that, aren't aware. June is a distinguished month for LGBT awareness. We had a celebration on the Common last week. Thank you for those that came. Unfortunately, some of the display was vandalized, some items were stolen. And that was very disheartening, but we kind of regrouped and we are going to figure that out. But for people that have said that Franklin is sort of like this safe bubble or this safe space and that stuff doesn't exist or happen here, that's just not correct. So we need to just continue to be a wonderful, welcoming, affirming community. It is no place for hate. My son at middle school got approached by another little boy and they got into an argument and he said, well, your dads are fags. that happened at a Franklin public school 2 weeks ago. So he, as a sixth grader, had to respond to that as best he could, and then come home and we had to respond to that with the administration as best we could.
Right.
But that little boy that said that to him is just a sixth grader. Like, I can't be mad at him. He learned that somewhere. He picked that up somewhere. That hatred, that prejudice, those incredibly disheartening, difficult words to hear came from somewhere. So we have some work to do. And I'm just bringing that to everyone's attention that, you know what? This isn't just Alabama and Florida and Texas that deal with these issues. We have that stuff in our own backyard, and we have to do everything that we can to make everyone feel welcome and safe and try to combat this stuff. The final piece that I'm not sure people are aware of, it was hard to read and it was hard to learn about, but the Human Rights Campaign, for the first time in their 40-year history, had to issue a state of emergency for the United States. That they are so concerned about the anti-LGBT legislation happening throughout the country that they are now warning people which states they can visit, which states they should visit, which states they should take caution with their children and visit, where the laws are being enacted that are going to hurt them and take their rights away. That is incredibly disturbing in 2023. We're lucky in Massachusetts in many regards, but that's happening in our country. And other countries have now issued emergency travel advisories telling people not to visit the United States this summer if they're an LGBT person, because they won't be safe. That's really happening. So we can do what we can locally, and we can do what we can with our legislators, but we have to really come at this from a place of understanding and a place of love, and we can make differences by talking to our kids and talking to our neighbors and talking to each other. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm on a soapbox, but this really impacted me and impacted my family this week.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you all for your support.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ted. Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question for Councilor Legger. You're not on a soapbox. It was very eye-opening what you just said, and I hope people let that sink in a little bit. I don't really have too much else tonight, but I'm thankful for your Plan B, Jamie, and hopefully it made a lot of people happy. It made me happy that a few things are going to be saved. And again, it's only one part. We're doing the best we can. And I'm kind of thankful I voted to not make Franklin a trailer park, Mr. Chairman, tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Councilor Pellegrini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just go over the date you said for the subcommittee.
The Joint Budget Subcommittee is July 26th.
I just want to be tentative. It's likely going to be July 26th at 5 p.m.
Is
And the
that,
reason
It's
why
90% sure.
we can't find a date,
Yeah.
and this is my fear, everyone's away, people,
I'm
you know, I
Yeah.
get it. I know, but it could be August, but then if you don't, then you're September, and then we're starting to lose some valuable
Yeah.
time here, so this is just
I
a
really
fir-
don't want to push it out any
first-
further.
It's just a first meeting too, and you'll get the forecast, everyone will send the forecast around and
Yeah.
everything, you know.
The bottom line here is we know we have the majority
Right.
of the people on that committee are available. So I don't want to change, I don't want to push it out any further.
And it couldn't be brought back like to the end of June instead of the end of July?
We won't have the forecast done. Town
Good reason.
administration and school committee.
Okay. And my last thing is just condolences for the Cuson family. Eric Cuson from our Franklin Police Department, his mother passed away. And lovely lady, lived here and for a long time, and just a wonderful person, wonderful, wonderful person. And I just wanted everyone to remember her and remember Eric during this time and his family. And that was it. I wanted to thank getting the 700 and plus money together. And again, thank the department heads in that, and hopefully with our prayers, it's going to be used for the students, and it will be good with all of the people that have come before us with questions and all. So that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Pellegrini. Councilor Sheridan.
Well, I just want to agree about the Nason Playground, looks great. And I'm looking forward to see the sculpture park. And I'm happy with the progress we made with the extra money for the schools and with the zoning site. Thank you.
Councilor Frangillo, the designer of the pot.
Is it like a little kettle?
I do have a picture.
It's
ceramic.
I expect you to bring it in at some point.
I have one.
We're gonna fill it
It's a little
up.
tiny one.
The sculpture park looks beautiful today. That was really cool seeing all the students down there who helped make that, help rejuvenate the sculpture park. Strawberry Stroll is Friday.
Yeah, that's right.
Love the Strawberry Stroll. I'm gonna be there talking about zoning if you wanna.
Well, you invited me too.
Yeah, come down. Open invite to anyone. We got a table. Franklin Food Pantry's opening.
June 12th.
Yeah, that's next
8:30.
week.
Yep.
8:30, yeah, grand
AM.
opening. It's gonna be beautiful, and that is the culmination of many, many years and many, many hours of work, and I'm very excited to be a part of that. We have office hours next Thursday. We just don't meet before then. So next Thursday at Senior Center, as always, we'll be there. Anyone's welcome to stop by and see us. Okay. Those are my events. One is, and Councilor Cormier Ledger touched upon most of it. I actually had another anecdote to add. I'm fearful because I don't want it to sort of bring everyone down. But today, I heard that Franklin residents, a few Franklin residents, went and checked out as many LGBT books from the library as they could, so that no one could check them out during the month of June. Yeah, this exists in our own home, and it's why it's so important that we have reminders and efforts, be them passive or active, that draw us in, that say, what was it, kindness matters.
Yeah.
So I hope we all continue to find ways to spread love and love our neighbors. Yeah, I don't quite have the words for it. I fully get all the frustrations with people not being engaged enough in their community. And engage enough in this process. I hope that we can find the words to make it an invitation more than a chastising. It is very, very difficult. We can always do better to make sure that we're going and meeting people and making it easier to invite and bring people in. And we can also always celebrate those who do take their time out of their very busy schedules to join us. So yes, please continue to get engaged. Please push others to get engaged. Please don't accept cynicism that rejects the process. You do have a voice. Your voice does matter. The fact that so many people came out, even those that came out on the 15th hour, is what helped make the case for why we needed to add the $700,000 today. So those who have come out, thank you, and invite others to as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Hamblin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to reiterate what everyone has already said. I want to thank Amber for organizing planting the pride flags on the common. I was there with Councilor Cormier Ledger. The group that was there was amazing. There was so much happiness and love, and I'm sorry that there was vandalism, and I know that we can't expect everything to be perfect, but I'm like, let's just go back out and put them back up. Let's just we have to spread love And be kind, like Mary said, like Councilor Frangelo mentioned that sign tonight. Kindness matters. And we all live here in the same earth, so let's just, I mean, I guess we'll never really understand what people hate. But that's not really, I mean, I just hope people understand that we're all human. Nason Street Tot Lot was fantastic. I hope everybody checks that out. I look forward to checking out the Sculpture Park. I want to thank all the volunteers who were appointed tonight. I mean, we can't get anything done without all of us volunteers. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now I'm going to go to bed.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Jones.
Thank you. What was that? You didn't even draw it out or anything. Oh, jeez. It's
getting late.
Getting late.
Ted, God bless you. Really, I'm sorry about that. That's just very disheartening. I'm sorry that happened. It's totally unacceptable. And we're with you. I'm with you. But one of the things I wanted to point out, and this all will tie together, believe it or not. Tuesday night, or Tuesday I should say, is June 13th is my 25th wedding anniversary with my wife.
Oh, great.
The reason I bring that up is, one, it's a celebratory thing that we're going to have in the next week, and it really makes me happy to have been, and proud to have been married to my wife for 25 years. But you know what, one thing that has taught me is that in order to make it through 25 years of marriage, it takes commitment and it takes sacrifice. And the one thing I know that we as counselors, and many of the people who stepped up to volunteer tonight for these positions, sacrifice their time, they sacrifice themselves to a cause, to make something happen, because they truly believe in something. And I know for a fact that every single one of my counselors sitting next to me has that commitment, shares that sacrifice, and with the ultimate hope of making our community the best place to continue to make our community the best place to live and raise a family, without hate, with a budget, that pot that's full. All of these things are something we all wish for. We don't all always get what we want. Now, I can't sit here and say that after 25 years of marriage that it's been perfect, because nothing is perfect.
Oh,
but
we
it does
know.
require sacrifice. And ultimately, the goals get met. We do ultimately meet those goals, and we continue to enjoy those goals. I will state, part of the reason I bring this up is as I sit here tonight, I get text messages from my wife, who sends me pictures of my 12-year-old daughter, who is standing on stage at the Annie Sullivan Middle School Choir, singing her voice off with the rest of her middle school grade students, her friends. Just as I sit here trying to promote continuously getting funding for these types of things so that these kids can enjoy that. You know, I sacrificed sitting here instead of watching my daughter in this event. But I'm happy my wife sent me this picture. It makes me proud. She sent me a little video. I'm going to watch it later. To talk with her and tell her how proud I am of her doing that tonight, because that's such a wonderful thing. But on a different note, I wanted to bring up some business. Master Plan Committee, the first official Master Plan Committee meeting is next Wednesday, June 14th at 6:30 p.m. It will be our inaugural meeting where all the members will officially get to meet each other. We were sworn in by the town clerk, Nancy. We will have Barrett and Bader there, they're our consultants, as well as Amy Love and Brian DeBerner and whoever else wants to join us for our first meeting. It's going to be it's going to be a joyous event kicking off the master plan. Also, to Kobe's point, the food pantry is having their grand opening ceremony at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. I'd be remiss if I didn't say there were so many people that have put so much effort into making this project come to fruition. This is over 2 years in the making. I remember when I was sitting here a couple of years ago when this first came up as a project, and I'm like, we are going to commit the electrical work to that project, and I can honestly say that through many hard efforts of my brothers and sisters at Local 103, that 100% of the wiring at the building was all volunteer, and the building is now up and running. It is actually a beautiful display. If you have an opportunity to drive by the food pantry at night, you'll actually see some of the wonderful signage that just got put up, and you'll actually see the beautiful lights that lights that place up. So there's a grand opening on Monday morning at 8:30. It's going to be a great event. And again, there's so many people that contributed to that project. I want to thank all those people. And other than that, Mr. Chairman, it looks like everything else has been said. And now I pass the ball to you.
And you wonder why I didn't drag out your name?
Okay.
And by the way, your
Okay.
wife is a saint.
Took the words right out.
Which is why I'm getting her Medal of Honor for our anniversary instead of a cake.
Counselor DeLarco.
Make sure it's a silver one.
You might want to get her something a little nice.
Yeah.
I also would like to, from the Teamsters to 103, I would like to thank those, my fellow brothers for doing all that work voluntarily. Please pass that on to them.
Thank you. Will do.
And, yeah, and, you know, Ted, you know, unfortunately, that sixth grader was taught that. Because nobody's born with hate. They're taught hate, unfortunately. And, so, I'm with you too, my brother. So, you know, they've been long meetings. We gotta get these meetings down a little, down. So, that's you, Mr. Chairman. And,
That guy to the left of me.
You know, it's people coming in and singing and stuff.
Yeah,
It's like, what's up with that?
But, you know, I'd like to, you know, the electrical boxes, the art that's done on them is just amazing. For me, who can only drive a stick man, to me, to see that is just, it's unbelievable. I want to give a shout out to them because it's really is beautiful. But outside of that, I got nothing. You know?
Thank you, Councilor DeLarco. Just a quick couple of things, and I'll try not to repeat everything that everybody has already said. But first and foremost, Councilor Cormier-Ledger, I'm sorry that your family had to deal with that. That's not something that anybody should have to deal with. I'd also like to offer my condolences to the Cuson family. I knew Mary, and I'm sorry to the entire family for their loss. I'd like to thank a few specific people tonight. Police Chief T.J. Lynch, Fire Chief Jim McLaughlin, and DPW Director, what's his name?
Brutus something?
Brutus something. Brutus something, who came here in support of what we were doing this evening. And they sat here all night long, and they did not have to. And as well, our building inspector, Mr. Gus Brown, who as well stayed here all night, helped us through some of the zoning issues, but stayed in support of the things that we were doing tonight. And I can't thank them enough for doing that. And our residents, Steve Sherlock, who's always here.
Yep.
Mr. Ciccone, nice to see you back again. I'd also like to just remind everybody, Strawberry Stroll, as everybody has. Strawberry Stroll Friday. Do we have a rain date for that? Saturday, just so that people know. Yeah, food pantry opening, ribbon cutting on Monday morning. And I would be remiss if, and I'd be in a lot of trouble if I did not wish the matriarch of the Mercer family, my mother, turned 95 yesterday. So happy birthday to Wanda. And in closing, before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just want to send the final message out to everyone. Get engaged. We are one community. We are one Franklin. And we need to be preaching that to everyone. So with that, I'd entertain a motion.
So
to adjourn.
moved.
Second.
Motion second, non-debatable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, my God.